and welcome to the LFC Roundtable podcast. This is the podcast where we break down everything from the feeds. I'm your host, Taryn Armstrong, and with me today is Melissa. How you doing, Melissa?
I'm doing well. It was so exciting to have the feeds back. I think I tweeted a little too much on that first night. But I was just so excited. It's like, the first night of feeds is always a big deal. So I'm excited to really kick the season off because I feel like it doesn't really get started until we have the first eviction, because the first eviction is always kind of, So I'm excited to really get the season going.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know why they always make the first one so long. The first one is
so long.
It's right after the first one. That's the primo stuff there. Also with me today is Brent. How you doing, Brent?
Brent Wagamot is here, always right, and joined by the host who is always wrong, Taryn Armstrong. How you doing, Taryn?
I mean, am I always wrong, or?
Nah, I'm just saying that.
Am I always right?
Yeah, I was having fun at your expense last night, but it's only because you weren't there, as you correctly called on Twitter. Like, it's more fun to make fun of you when you're not there because we kind of laugh, and, I don't have to put up with your comebacks.
Well, we are here live, as we will be every week, to argue about what's been happening on the live feeds of Celebrity Big Brother 2. And we are live on YouTube. You can send in questions to me on Twitter at ArmstrongTaryn, or you can join us in the chat, and we may be able to respond to you as we go along here. But let's talk about what's been happening in this Celebrity Big Brother house this week. There's a lot to cover in this first week, and there's still a lot that we don't know. So keep that in mind. But we started the week, obviously, all the house guests moved in. Wonderful. It's great. We had an HOH competition. It was a paired HOH competition. The two people that were left out were Kato and Natalie. They are immune for the week. However, they will get to compete in both vetoes that happened during the week, and they will be voting. I'm like 99% sure they will be voting in the eviction, so that is good to note. Jonathan and Ryan end up winning this paired HOH competition, but twist! They're gonna have to compete against each other, and only one of them is gonna be HOH. The other one is gonna have to go on the block. That one person is gonna be Jonathan, while Ryan becomes our first HOH of the season. And then, another twist. He's got to make his nominations in 30 minutes. So, their alliances are trying to come together, and they're trying to make some moves, trying to figure out who to nominate. Jonathan is not able to get to Ryan first. Ryan ends up telling the women that his idea is Dina and the Mooch. He then goes to Jonathan. Jonathan is like, maybe not Dina, maybe Tom instead. And Ryan's like, oh, yeah, totally. And so they do that. And the Mooch and Tom are nominated alongside Jonathan, leaving the women just a little bit like, oh, I thought we were going to do another thing. Maybe we should have a conversation about that. But then Jonathan and Ryan never have a conversation about it with them. So that's the first act of this week. Really just a bit of a mess on both production side, on Jonathan and Ryan's side, and everything in between, Melissa.
Yeah, basically. I mean, honestly, I'm still very confused as to a lot of what's going on. And I thought maybe on the third episode, it would have cleared some things up. And I still feel more confused than ever. I feel like this is the most confused I've been once feeds have turned on. Because it was like there were so many elements to it that we were trying to we were gleaning what had happened from various pieces of conversation. And usually it's like, oh yeah, there's something that happened that we don't know, but we can kind of piece it together, and it's usually just one thing. But I feel like there's so much going on right now that we have no idea what happened, and I'm not even sure if Big Brother is gonna be able to clear everything up for us with the next episode. So it's gonna be interesting to see how they try and work something out.
There's a reason for that, because on the live sneak peeks that they gave us, it was clear that Big Brother had instructed them not to talk game, and this is like the first big stick in the eye of the fans. It's Big Brother giving us the big middle finger to the people who care about the show. Again, we will watch no matter what. The people who come on to the live feeds, who turn on CBS All Access, okay, when they give us a sneak peek, are like the creme de la creme of the people who are your bread and butter, the people that will always watch the show no matter what. Like that, I would watch it 3 times if they showed it to me, okay? We are not the people that you need to be afraid of spoiling something about, okay? It was just so dumb, Taryn. And then that spilled over into a bit of the first week where they weren't even sure what they were allowed to say because Big Brother had been on them so much about the fact that you can't talk game when we're giving these 15-minute sneak peeks, which is why we didn't learn anything. Contrast that with last year where you have Omarosa and Marissa and I can't remember who else, Brandy, talking about what alliance they're going to make and how they're going to stick together. And we were living for it and gave us all the excitement in the world. I just want to say, like, what the hell are you doing, Grodner? Like, it's like other people, like Jonathan on Twitter when I was going off on him, like, I want to love you. It's like, Big Brother, I want to love you. But you're making it so damn hard. Why would you do that? And that's not even my worst problem with what's happened this week. And I just want to say this because I have listened to other people who podcast, and those people get to a point in time where they're complaining so much about the show they're covering. I'm sitting at home listening to them going, so why are you even doing this anymore? I don't want you to think that I don't love Big Brother because I'm living for what we're getting on this Big Brother. But it's in spite of the things that the producers have been trying to do, not because of them. So I don't want you to think that I'm down on the season because I'm not.
Yes. I'm totally with you on production telling the house guests not to talk about certain things. It's very frustrating. Last season on Big Brother 20, we had house guests who were afraid to talk to the cameras because they were told not to pander to America. And so they thought that meant I'm not supposed to like explain my strategy to the cameras. And now this season, I think are very adverse to talking game. And that's because like, they're not explaining things fully, especially to people who don't know the show very well.
Right. They're
saying, hey, don't talk game during the live feed previews. And then, so when the live feeds go on permanently, they're like, well, are we allowed to say this? Are we allowed to talk about this? Are we allowed to say what we want to do here? And it's just, they're too nervous about it. And it's very frustrating. Just like, you have to let them talk on the feeds. They need to talk at some point. They need to do what they're doing.
At the very least, like if they're going to do these sneak previews where they don't want them talking game, well, then explain to them after those previews are over. Okay, guys, you're allowed to talk game now. You're allowed to talk to the cameras. You're allowed to do whatever you were going to do. That was just during that period of time. Like, just be clear with them rather than just like not saying anything. And I mean, even now it seems like they're not clarifying, even though there's still that confusion. It's not like, oh, okay, well, now let's clarify with them because clearly they're still confused. They're just letting it happen and ignoring it. And it's just, that's what we listen to the feeds for anyway, is to hear them strategize, to see what really happens in real time, rather than these like neat little tied up packages that they give us on the edited shows. And if we're not going to get that, then like, what's the point?
Yeah, I agree. So very frustrating. Look, this, as Brent talked about, there's a lot to complain about this week. I think that there have been a lot of very strange decisions happening. We will point them out along the way, but we'll try not to belabor the point too much. I think everybody at this point understands, and I think the people that need to be listening to this are not listening to this, unfortunately. So I don't think we're going to make our message heard. But anyway, nominations again were the Mooch and Tom. A lot of people pointing to Jonathan trying to protect Dina as a massive mistake. I still personally disagree with that analysis. I think that keeping Dina off the block was a good thing. It was the follow-through that completely failed. After the nominations, Jonathan and Ryan seemingly did not talk to the women at all. They would just pop into rooms occasionally, have super awkward interactions, then leave and be like, we're in trouble, guys. They needed to be like, hey, what's up? We're sorry that things happened. We only had 30 minutes. It's a very understandable circumstance, but they seemingly never tried to explain it, and it turned into something really bad. I talked this morning about this sort of spiral into chaos and tension between these two groups in the alliances, the men and the women, and it was bad. It was bad all around on both sides here, with Lolo ending up flipping off the picture of Ryan, and it's this tension just really builds and builds. They have their first veto competition, and Ricky ends up winning it. And because of this tension, Ryan goes to Ricky and says, "Hey, Ricky, why don't you use the veto on Jonathan? And I'll replace him with Lolo, because she's been so weird to me." And
right.
Ricky is like, I'll think about it. And then he goes to Lolo and he says, "Hey, Lolo, guess what Ryan wants to do?" And then he doesn't use the veto. Ricky being quite the pot stirrer here. That should be the end of the veto segment of this recap, but it's not. But we'll stop down here so that Brent can comment on what just happened.
I mean, well, okay, I take your point. Okay, you're right. That it wasn't the issue of saving Dina that was the problem. It was the follow through, but it was also the setup too. Like I look, I know 30 minutes isn't a long time, but he had enough time to talk to Ryan and say, "Hey, I don't think putting up Dina is a good idea. She's like second mom to me. Lindsay would never forgive me. Blah 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 blah." He could have grabbed one of the women, Tamar, Lolo, or even Natalie Eve Marie. Sorry, I'm always trying to say her name wrong. Natalie Eve Marie, and said, "You know what? Hey, I just want to let you know it's probably going to be like, I don't know for sure, but it's probably going to be Tom, not Dina." And because I love Dina, you know, and she's just like, you know, you say whatever you want, just give them a heads up so they feel like they're in on the plan, or even ask him, even better, ask him and say, "Hey, like, would that be okay with you?" You know, because I'm sure they would have said yes, as long as it's not them. Yes, we'll do that. But instead, again, this is before the feeds, so we don't know, but it looked like from what we saw, there was no communication beforehand, no communication after, and then there was that look from Jonathan during the middle of the ceremony, which, you know, we can take what you want from that, but it was called out by Lolo as something where they viewed Ryan as the figurehead and Jonathan as the mastermind behind the curtain, and I think that's in part why we are where we are today, aside from the fact that I take back what I said about Jonathan. I don't think he's very good at this game, Taryn. I really don't.
I agree.
I just, like, there are basic social strategies that even me as a total bitch sometimes knows you have to be able to talk to people and just, like, get it out and talk to them. And if you feel weird, say, "Hey, are we weird?" Like, because I feel like we're weird. And if they say no, hey, you made your effort. But he's not even making that kind of an effort. And I feel like that has continued on to where we are today.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I feel like we always talk about, you know, ad nauseum, we talk about jury management, but I also think there's a thing that's alliance management, and you have to make sure that your alliance is feeling good about you and feeling comfortable with you, and just saying, like, once or twice, like, "Hey, we're in an alliance," and then literally not saying a word to them for a while is not the way you maintain a good relationship. You have to keep up communication. You have to keep up some sort of friendship, even if you're just casually chatting or anything. The second the person starts feeling like you're keeping stuff from them is the second they start doubting your alliance. And the second they start doubting your alliance, they're going to go after you rather than, which is kind of interesting that they would go after their own alliances before they go after other people. But that's because they're like, this person's betraying me because they told me they were with me and now they're not. So it's about the like betrayal of your own alliance that makes people then turn on you instead of going around to get the other people. So I just feel like there was no management here in terms of that big alliance that was created.
Yeah, Taryn, we've seen stuff like this before where, like, it's always the betrayer who gets the blame. Like, when even in other seasons where you save someone, it's not the person who you tried to vote out previously who was on the block and was saved. That's not the person you end up blaming. It's the people who actually betrayed you are the ones you end up feeling bad about and end up coming for. It's always the person who's the betrayer, not the betrayed.
Yeah, and basically how I feel it happened is Jonathan and Ryan, based on what we've seen on the feeds thus far, if they were acting this way in the first week, then I completely understand what happened, which is that they just hang out together all the time.
Oh my God, yes.
And don't interact with the women of their alliance. And so that happened, and they opened the door, because even when that happens, the women are still probably thinking, yeah, but they want to work with us, so we're not going to like go after them. But that opened the door for somebody like Ricky to come in and be like, hey, I see an opening here. Why don't I throw some chaos into the mix? And obviously the men are not expecting Ricky to do this, and he was able to very successfully, because of the door that was opened, get in there and completely finish the turn of the women onto these men. And there you go.
What are you talking about? The guys weren't expecting Ricky to do this. We weren't expecting Ricky to do this. I couldn't believe this was actually happening, and I still can't believe it's happening. And at first I thought, I'm sure like many of you in the chat are like, well, did he do that on purpose? Like, is Ricky, or is he just kind of like, did he do something and then in the diary room, like he's trying to make it look like he tried to do something that was a sort of a savvy move? But having listened to him over the past 48 hours or so, I am completely on board with the fact that Ricky, for all of his quirks sometimes, is playing a pretty good game right now and is doing some things deliberately on purpose in order to attain his current position in the house, where it seems like he's the one who's causing everything to happen. He's the catalyst for the awkwardness and inability to talk with each other right now, because he has, relayed some information that they don't think that the boys don't think got relayed, and he's also he stayed people's hand when other people have thought about, well, maybe we shouldn't do this. He's like, no. Remember, they were going to put up Lolo. And they're like, oh, yeah. So he's definitely at work here and somebody to be taken seriously.
Yes, and another point that I brought up this morning, and I wanted to get you guys your thoughts on it. I feel like the Jonathan downfall, if he is in fact voted out this week, as it is looking like he might be, that his legacy is that he did not play hard enough. He has just been hanging out with Ryan. He has not been checking in with people. He has not been. He's barely talked to Tom and Kato. He's let the women completely drift away. He's just hanging out with Joey and Ryan, not doing nearly enough. And so I think that the Shannon comparisons are not quite there. Even though I think Shannon also was not like the categorical overplayer, but I think he's not even there. I think he is an underplayer, and I think that's what his downfall has been. Brent, do you agree?
Yeah, I do. I've actually known Jonathan Bennett, not known personally, but I've watched him for about a year and a half. I didn't watch Mean Girls when it came out. It's probably one of the few gays in America who didn't watch Mean Girls in 2004. And then I've seen him on Instagram with his boyfriend James. So James, for you don't guys, if you don't know who I'm talking about, who was on The Amazing Race. He was one of the Chippendales on The Amazing Race, and they've been going out together for I think a little over a year now. Very cute couple. But I feel like Jonathan has been playing this game exactly like he lives his life. He just hangs out with his boyfriend, who in this case is Ryan, and is just chilling. He's cool. That's all he needs. And I get that. I'm kind of a homebody myself. Like, I just hang out with Jay and I don't have a ton of friends. But in the Big Brother house, you've got to get out there and mingle. It's like the Mooch said at the end of the episode. You got to get out there and schmooze with people. Of course, he's schmoozing in Davos right now. But, schmooze with the women. Schmooze with Kato and Tom. That's what, Jonathan, it's so infuriating, Taryn and Melissa, because he's talked on the feeds about the fact that he has been wanting to get on the show for years. Like, this was a dream of his to play Big Brother, Melissa. And I feel like, well, what's happening here? Well, I can explain it to me.
Yeah, it's disappointing because I don't think Jonathan would be going out this early had he not been screwed over by the twist. But at the same time, he's not doing himself any favors. So I feel like it's one of those situations where, like, that wasn't the nail in the coffin for him to be nominated. I think that if he had played this week differently, I don't think he would have gone home. But I think that it certainly didn't help that he got put on the block, especially, when his biggest ally in the house is HOH. Like, it really is. If everything had played out without this twist and Jonathan was no one got put on the block and Ryan won HOH, I don't think Jonathan would be put on the block at all. I don't think he'd be in danger of going home at all. I think he'd at least be safe till next week and probably longer. But now that he's put in that situation, he's not doing the required work he needs to do to get himself out of it. I felt pretty confident about him in the beginning because it seemed like he was making alliances and talking with people. And, I heard a lot of good things being said about him. And I was like, you know what, maybe I judged him rather harshly during our draft. But now I just don't think either he just doesn't see himself as being in danger, which seems weird to me because he is a strong player, or he just he thinks he's doing enough and isn't realizing that he's not. I don't know what's going through his mind.
It reminds me of what Aris from Survivor said about winners returning to the game, where they've never experienced what it's like to be on the other end of a blind side, where this is his first week of the game. Most people get through this. I think that he is the kind of player where if he survives this week and realizes that people were against him this whole time, that he would be like, oh my God, I've been doing this all wrong. And he would learn from that and he would move on. And even if he wasn't put in this situation from the twist to begin with, then he might have had some time to sort of get a solid grasp of the game. As it is, he's kind of just floundering. I think he has the potential there, but it's almost definitely going to go unrealized at this point.
Yeah, I was very taken with what you said on the live feed update earlier today with Mary. A really good one for those people who didn't listen to it, where you talked about the fact that that they could probably solve this problem. The boys I'm talking about, Ryan and Jonathan, they could probably get out of this mess if they just talked with the women. If they just had a conversation about the fact that things are a little awkward right now, that maybe they're not feeling great about it. Just get in a room and talk.
Right.
And they will not
make
do
them
that.
talk. Make them talk. Tell them hey, we need to have a conversation. Let's sit down, rather than this thing where they walk into a room, they feel awkward about it, and the girls get up and leave, or they walk into a room and they feel awkward about it, so they leave. It's you get in a room, you feel awkward about it, you tell them, look, okay, we really need to talk. Can we please just sit down and talk for a minute? Let's just hash this out because something's weird between us. I know it's awkward, but you just gotta buck up and do it if you want to stay in the house. And at this point, it's not looking good for Jonathan.
Yep. And one of the reasons why is after this veto ceremony, the veto is not used. There is some mysterious happenstance in the house. There was somebody who was in the house who's no longer in the house. The Mooch, who was nominated, one of the 3 nominees, ends up revealing to the house guests that he has been a mole the whole time, just like the audience has known since day one. That was sarcasm, by the way. You have not missed anything. We have no idea what this is. And then, after revealing that he's a mole, he leaves the game, and the house guests play a second veto, but not before Ryan replaces Mooch with Candy. Not sure why Candy came up. We'll probably find out tomorrow night when the episode airs. But Candy is now on the block next to Tom and Jonathan, and they are now competing in their second veto after Mooch the Mole has left the game. And Kato is going to win this veto, and he is pretty tight with Tom, so he plans on using this veto on Tom. So a lot of stuff to process there. Do you guys have any theories here on the Mooch? We know for sure that he is out of the house. He has been spotted in Switzerland. He's out. I personally don't think there's any chance he goes back into the house unless they really don't care about the integrity of the game, because he's out of the house. He can see everything. He can find out all of the alliances and everything. So if he went back in, that would be pretty bad.
Okay. This is the question we need to ask ourselves, as Deborah is talking about in the chat, where she says the mole excuse is straight up bullshit that CBS is trying to feed to us. Of course, CBS didn't say that. The house guests are saying that. But what CBS did say is that there was a twist in the game coming on Friday that the house guests will never see something, and the second house guest will go home. Of course, Rob and I were talking on the chat last night about talking on the show last night about the fact that, okay, is that the Mooch and a house guest going home, or is it the Mooch and 2 other house guests going home? And this is why I was so infuriated. And I know Rob doesn't like it when I get too upset sometimes, but I mean, this is why I get so upset. And some people on Twitter were making fun of me because you were hating the twist, and then I said you're being a broken record, and then I was going on about the bad twist. One twist is okay. I'm okay with that. Give me a good twist anytime. Big Brother Canada, I'm cool with. But when you throw a bunch of things into the first week, and then you try to make the house guests not talk about the game, and you want to have 3 nominees, and the person who's part of the power pair has to be on the block with the person that they won the power pair competition with, and you have a second veto competition, and you have a person who is either quit or is a mole and never was really part of the game. It just shows me that you don't have any confidence in the cast that you have set and the game structure that we have grown to love over 20 years now. And I don't know why that's the case. Why do they feel the need to throw all this shit against the wall? It's just, just bad production, and I don't know why they do that.
They need to justify their jobs. It's a full-time job coming up with twists.
I guess.
I'm absolutely beyond not okay with having it pre-planned that the mooch is going to come into the house only for this set period of time. I'm positive that it was, I mean, if what we're all saying is accurate, then I'm positive it was in his contract that he had to go to this conference that he hosts typically. I don't know if he's hosting it this year, but he usually like is a host of this conference.
Yeah, he's hosting one. Yeah.
And he is, if that's written in his contract that, okay, I'll come into the house for you, I'll do your little interviews beforehand, I'll get everyone psyched, and then but I have to leave by X date, which literally is in the first week. I mean, that's absolutely ridiculous. Like that's not cool at all, because that plays all of us. Like if he quits on his own, well, you know what? There's nothing CBS could have done. If he knew going in, like if he played CBS because he knew going in that he was going to go to this conference and he was like, you know what? I got to be out by this date, so I'm just going to quit. That's fine I'm not fine with the mooch doing that, but I'm saying that that's fine with CBS not knowing and being like, this sucks because he was like our big draw. I wish he was staying, but this was his own decision. And he didn't let us know about this. That's fine. But if CBS knew from the get-go that this guy was only going to stay for X amount of days because he like just for the publicity of having the mooch in the house, I'm not okay with that. That's not okay, because that plays all of us. Like that plays all of us, and I don't like it.
I agree, and I think like a lot of people are saying, oh, you know what happened is he quit, and this is CBS covering up the fact that he quit, trying to make it seem like it was planned all along. I mean, that seems crazy to me because this is so much worse than him quitting.
CBS, yeah. Like, quitting is like, okay, that sucks because he just decided to quit and we had no say in it. We wish he would have stayed. But if CBS was behind this whole thing, or even if they weren't behind it but are making themselves look like they were behind it, that's like, it boggles the mind.
One of two things has happened. Either this is the dumbest twist. Somebody in the chat's like, oh, Brent, it's not a twist, it's a feature. Switch, please. Like, whatever. I mean, it's a twist, okay? There's somebody who's in the cast who's not even a real player. So either that's true, in which case this has been done really shabbily.
Yeah, like, what was the point?
He quit the game. Exactly. What was the point? Or he quit the game. And I feel like the thing is, I feel like he quit the game, but I'm like, I feel like that does CBS lie to us? Because if they try to act like this is planned and he really did quit, then they are effectively lying to us. The people in the chat obviously think that CBS is playing us, that they're trying to cover up the fact that he quit. But I kind of feel like they wouldn't do that. Like if he actually quit, I feel like they would hang him out to dry. So I kind of don't know what to.
Yeah, they'd be pissed if he quit.
I agree. So I don't really feel like that he was a twist. I feel like he really did quit. I feel like that he got in the Big Brother game. And he was like, you know what? I don't like this. And Davos is coming up in a couple days, and I'd rather be there. Screw this shit. If I leave now, I can actually make it in time for Davos because I feel like I'm going to be voted out on Friday. And I feel like that's what happened. I know Rob was like, how the hell did he make it to Davos? He's a millionaire. He's a billionaire. You just
jump on a plane.
Jump on a red eye and get over there. Yeah, I mean, like, it didn't look like he had much sleep when he did that interview. So I'm sure he could do whatever he wanted to. But that's what I think happened, is that he quit the game. He remembered that Davos was coming up, which is, for those of you who don't know, it's a financial get-together for a lot of hoity-toity people in the world. And he just straight up quit. And I agree, RJ, he was boring as well.
I mean, unless there's the slim possibility that it was written in his contract that he needed to be gone for this particular conference, and that CBS was going to make an exception for him to attend this conference. He was going to be like accompanied by a handler, and they
no.
That's fake news. He wasn't going to like watch live feeds, and then he's
like, I feel like I'm listening to Rob again last night. There's no way that's true.
He was on the block. Like, you can't just like take him away and save him from the block in the eviction. Like that's crazy. Like the whole thing is crazy.
The whole thing is crazy. But I'm just saying, for these people who are saying he might be brought back, like, yeah, maybe, but maybe. I don't know.
Theoretically, there is something out there in the world, some explanation that maybe makes sense and maybe won't be infuriating, and maybe we'll find that out tomorrow night. But I genuinely have been thinking very hard, and I can't find anything that isn't extremely dumb. So we'll find out tomorrow, but the whole thing is just silly, and hopefully we'll talk about it when we find out what it is. We'll say how dumb it is, and then we'll be able to move on and just forget this whole embarrassing thing happened, because I really do feel like this week has been embarrassing from a production standpoint.
And you know what? If I'm being totally honest, I'm a little disappointed because I was excited to see him play. I thought that he had a chance to, go far in the game, and I'm sad that you never like to see people quit. I was upset when Meta quit last year, so I just feel like it's really disappointing, especially because everybody's saying that it's in their contracts that they can't quit or else they don't get the money. But if for someone who has, millions and millions of dollars, they don't care if they lose their stupid stipends. They just want the publicity. So, oh well.
Deborah says in the chat, Mooch was bitter because he lost the veto and left before he got evicted / embarrassed. I'm inclined to think that that's true, actually.
He did seem like he didn't want to be there. Like in the live feed previews and on the first 2 episodes, he's just been like, I'm a billionaire. Don't forget that. I know it's really embarrassing what you're seeing right now, but I'm really successful and I was in the White House. So when we heard that he wasn't in the house, it was like, yeah, that makes complete sense that he would quit. But, what are you going to do? Anyway, they play the veto.
Oh, by the way, I disagree, Melissa. I'm not really that devastated at all that Mooch ended up quitting. Of course, we never like a quitter if that's what happened. But, the Mooch isn't the star of the show. The star of the show is Tamar Braxton, honey. And I am living for what she's given us, Taryn, because we haven't even brought her up over the last 30 minutes. And Celebrity Big Brother 2 is all about Tamar Braxton.
We'll get there.
Oh, I know. I just want to talk about her, but we can wait.
It's been an eventful week. There's been a lot to talk about. So Kato wins the second veto. He wants to use it on Tom. He's close with Tom. So the Jonathan, Joey and Ryan, who have kind of started, Joey has kind of gravitated toward those workout bros, and they have to figure out who are we going to nominate as the replacement for Tom. Jonathan wants it to be Joey, so that they can appease the women, because his argument is if we lose the women, then I'm gone anyway, so we might as well do everything in our power to try and get them back on our side. And by everything in their power, he means nominate his closest other ally who's not on the block, and then still not talk to them. So that's everything in his power. That is what they end up doing. Kato is going to use the veto on Tom. Joey goes up on the block. He does give his consent, though again, I have to implore you, go look at his face when they tell him, and he says yes with the biggest frown in the world on his face. His little bro heart is broken, and I'm sorry, Joey. I just really like making fun of you. So the final nominees are. Sorry, so many. I almost named Tom and the Mooch, and neither of them are on the block anymore. Right. Jonathan, Candy, and Joey. Those are the 3 final nominees on the block. The current vote count is the women who have been turned against Jonathan by Ricky are going to be voting Ricky out. So that's Lolo.
Jonathan out.
Yes, Jonathan, sorry. So many J names. I don't even know what I said. Natalie, Lolo, Tamar, and Ricky should all be voting out Jonathan, as well as... Sorry, that was 4. That seems wrong.
That was 4, right, along with Tom and Kato. So,
along with Tom and Kato.
Right. So the only person we were unsure of right now is Dina, who we think is going to vote to save Jonathan. She's going to vote out Candy. That's what she's told Jonathan.
Right. I forgot. Tamar is not voting with them. Tamar is going to be voting Candy.
She's voting out Candy.
Right. Exactly.
That's what I got wrong.
Right.
A mess.
It's 5-2. like Tamar's in on the plan to blindside Jonathan, but she's not actually voting Jonathan out. That's the part that's kind of crazy. She keeps saying that she's going to vote Candy out, and I feel like she really does want Candy out. But she just somehow isn't. I feel like if she exerted her will enough, maybe it could happen. But I don't know. And by the way, just because I don't want to gloss over this, the reason that they put Joey on the block, I agree it was probably a dumb move. But by putting Joey on the block, they do leave their options open. Where if the women are with him, the women will save Jonathan and they'll be okay. And if they put Joey on the block, they could still go to Kato and Tom and make a deal if they felt like they needed to, and still have 4 votes with Kato and Tom and Candy and Tamar voting to evict Candy. But like if they put Lolo on the block, that really boxes them in with forcing themselves to now work with Tom and Kato. So I get where they were coming from on this, where Jonathan was like, I feel like we have to stick with the women here, because it at least gives you another option. But on the other hand, if it's a sinking ship, get off the sinking ship.
Yeah, I'm actually with you. Like, when we thought that potentially Kato and Natalie weren't voting because they were immune, it made a lot of sense to put Lolo on the block because that might secure the votes. But that is almost definitely not the case. And because of that, this is potentially the right move, even though, I mean, it's such a strange situation at this point. He has so few options of people to put up, but he does need to keep those options open. And as we'll talk about a little bit later, that's maybe what's going to save him. Whereas he was definitely dead in the water if Lolo was on the block, and he wouldn't have been able to work with either side, or at least it doesn't seem like that. So not nearly as bad a move as you may have initially thought when he puts up his closest ally. But so those 3 on the block. So the votes are Lolo, Natalie, Tom, Kato, and Ricky to evict Jonathan, Tamar, Dina to evict Candy.
Yes.
So in order for Jonathan to stay, he needs to flip at least one of the pairs, Lolo and Natalie or Tom and Kato, to the other side to evict Candy. That would make 4 votes to 3, and he would be able to stay. Obviously, if you can flip both pairs or everyone, that would also allow him to stay. But that's what it's looking like right now as we move toward the eviction tomorrow. So let's talk about the state of the house here. We got some alliances we need to talk about. There are a lot of pairs in the house, 3 of them at least. We've got Natalie and Lolo. They're a tight pair. You saw that on the episode where they talked about an alliance for their final
Classic.
Oh God, that's
by
so
the way,
awkward.
I don't want to forget about this. So they I think it was yesterday where Natalie, Eva Marie, and Lolo were talking again, and Natalie, Eva Marie basically said the same thing. Like, we should name our final 2 alliance. And Lolo was like, I can't with you. Like, I can't with you. What if Tamar was right here? And she's like, you know what? We should do that again to Tamar. We should do that again and see what she does. Like, just to play with her a little bit. And Lolo was like, no, she's too fragile right now. And then there's me at home going, no, do it. Do it. I want to see what happens.
I really like those 2 together. I think that Lolo and Natalie are doing a really great job, and I'm really impressed with them. I wouldn't have seen them working together, but I'm really happy that they are. I feel like they're really strong, and they're athletic. I feel like they're thinking about the game. Maybe they're not the smartest when it comes to like when to talk about things and when not to talk about things, but I do feel like they're really putting in the effort, and I'm impressed with them. And I think it's one of those situations where they could really catch on and really know how to play the game pretty well. And there's one other pair that I think is doing a good job, but I'm sure we'll talk about them in a minute.
Right. Taryn, I wanted to ask you your opinions about Natalie, Eva Marie, because I know Alex Kidwell, our friend on Twitter, has been going all over the fact that people have been comparing her to Vanessa from Big Brother. And like, I don't think she's Vanessa, people, but I think she's playing an okay game. And I don't think she's like the total like Texas Tornado diva bitch from the wrestling show Total Divas or whatever that people are making out to be. I think that she's doing an admirable job right now.
Yeah, my understanding is that wrestling fans don't like her because she is essentially somebody who doesn't have a lot of wrestling skill, who was thrust into the spotlight like she has a lot of skill. And so much like, Survivor players that just get a really massive edit and players hate them because of their edit, but not because of their personality, potentially. It seems like maybe a little bit like that. She definitely is also a bit of a grump, as we saw with Kato when he was cheering on the HOH competition. competition.
A little bit, yeah.
But there's definitely, but from what I've heard, again, I know very little about this. There does seem to be some kind of bias against her because of where she was placed by the powers that be in the wrestling community. So that might be what's going on. I like Natalie. I think that she has a lot of potential, more so than Lolo. I know I'd been hard on Lolo before. My estimations had gone up, and they're a little bit further down again. I feel like Natalie is kind of the brains there, and also probably the more capable social player, and potentially the one that wouldn't be targeted if they were both put on the block. So I like what Natalie is doing. That said, she was immune this week, and that really allows you to play a lot better. Like, if we're thinking about how Kato played this week, we'll talk about it when we rate them, but, you know, being immune gives you a lot of space to play around. So we'll see how she does next week. But I do like what she's doing. As a pair, Natalie and Lolo, I'm not as happy with the direction they've gone. I think they started this week in a really, really strong place in the middle, and I think they've been pushed to the side, and they've been pushed to the side by Ricky in favor of the next pair, Tom and Kato, who are now the pair that's kind of resting in the middle of the house right now. They are pretty tight. We saw them make an alliance with the Mooch, who is now gone, so they're just a pair at this point. I don't know if they were closer than the Mooch before he left, but who knows. Anyway, Kato used the veto on Tom. They're working well together. Tom has a very good mind for the game from what we've seen so far. He seems to know his place and know what to do, and so I like this pair. They are the best situated pair for me at the moment, and it'll be interesting to see where they go moving forward, Brent.
Yes, I agree. I think it's fun watching Tom. Or wait, were you talking about Tom and Kato, or were we talking about Natalie Eva Marie? I was looking at the chat. Oh, Tom and Kato. Yeah, that's what I thought you were talking about. Yes, Tom and Kato. Gosh, very fun. But I am very taken with the fact that Tom is so the brains of this operation, and Kato really is just like a number for him. After watching them talk over the past 48 hours, it's clear to me that Tom is the one who's actually thinking about the game. And I was also very taken with what you were talking about with Mary on the live feed update today about the fact that Tom feels like he's reinventing the wheel when talking about Big Brother strategy. That's very, very fun and very cute. But
so funny.
But it is impressive to me that he is thinking more than one step ahead, and he is not totally sold on evicting Jonathan, but it does seem like Kato is being a little bit intractable about it. So I don't understand if eventually Tom might make some hay in terms of turning him against what he was originally going to do and keep Jonathan, or if they're just going to follow through with this plan. I'm not even sure what they should do at this point, not even what they will do. I'm enjoying this
Tom and Kato pairing. I think this is the other pairing I'm really interested in. I think that they're doing a really great job. I like that, they're not playing too hard, but they're starting to think about it. And like Brent said, it's really funny to see them seemingly invent this strategy that's like classic Big Brother strategy that like now when we watch the season, it's like, yeah, duh, you're going to do that. And they're like, what if we were to maybe help each other in these veto competitions? And Kato's like, oh, don't say that. I'm glad you didn't do that. And it's like, are we allowed to? Couldn't we assist each other if we're working together? And it's like, oh my God. But it's so like, it seems so obvious to us, but it's like to them, they're like, just, it's magical, like watching them discover these pretty much like standard strategies. But the fact that they're coming up with these things, I mean, I think it's impressive because, if you're a player who hasn't seen the game and really very much, and who also, is playing in a season where a lot of other people haven't played the game, it is like starting all over. It is like, feeling it out and figuring out, how to play and what to do. And it's the people that figure it out that end up going really far and end up doing really well. So I feel like these guys are already on a really good track, and people aren't really, it doesn't seem to me that people are really thinking about them as big threats or anything like that, even though Kato already won a veto and, Tom was doing pretty well in the first competition, but, you don't look at these guys and think of them as big athletic threats. Right. So I'm thinking they're going to do a good job.
Yes. So yeah, we did see them, Tom in particular, start to think about maybe we should save Jonathan. That probably stems from a conversation that Tom had with Ricky earlier today, where Ricky was a little bit pushy, a little weird in the conversation. He called Tom a prick, not just calling him a prick. I believe he said like, "Oh, so deep down under everything, you're just a prick," something along those lines. And Tom was like, "That was weird. That was weird." And Tom was talking about how he likes Jonathan. Like, he genuinely likes Jonathan as a guy. He had talked a couple days ago about potentially taking, or maybe it was yesterday, about taking Joey out instead of Jonathan. I think Tom just actually likes Jonathan as a person and is looking for reasons to keep him around. And so now with what happened with Ricky, he's starting to think, well, maybe we should just work with Jonathan and Ryan and then also bring in the women, and maybe that'll work. Maybe then I don't have to deal with Ricky, because that was weird.
Yeah, the thing about Ricky is I feel like that he has elements of me, or I have elements of Ricky, in that he'll just say what he's thinking without any filter whatsoever. And like, that was obviously something that he shouldn't have said. But on the other hand, Tom was a little sensitive about it, and that, like, oh, he just called you a prick. Like, there are worse things you can be called than, okay, deep down you're a prick. Which, I mean,
couldn't
I guess
have been the first time Tom Green was called
right.
a prick.
Thank you. I mean, like, this is the Chad, ladies and gentlemen. Come on, like, it's the height of irony here that he's complaining about the fact that someone called him a prick. But he was, and so here we are, where he's actually thinking about saving Jonathan. I agree with you, Taryn, that I think deep down he just likes Jonathan, and I'm also not sure what he should do, because I do feel like that keeping Jonathan in the game will lessen any perceived genius talk from people about Tom, where they think, oh, Tom's really up to something. Tom really knows what he's doing. Because if you have somebody like Jonathan in the game, then I feel like he would be looked at as genius number 2. And I'm not even sure the house guests look at him that way, but I know we look at Tom Green that way right now. So I feel like the house guests will eventually work up to where we are right now once more of Tom is revealed to them. So I don't know if keeping Jonathan in the game for Tom Green is a good play or a bad play. And I'm not even sure if it can be done, number 1, but I'm not even sure he should do it, number 2, because of how, like, you have a shot to get out Jonathan the first week, who, like, reminds me, he only reminds me of Ross by the virtue of the fact that they're both fans and they're both gay. Other than that, I guess there's not a lot of similarities, because the former is not playing very good right now. But I just don't know what Tom should do, given that he has a clear shot to get this guy out.
I personally feel like the right move here is for him to go along and let Jonathan go, because for a couple of reasons. I think that Jonathan, as we've talked about, if you let him stay, that's dangerous. He might learn the game. I think Jonathan is probably one of Tom's bigger threats in terms of people who can sort of see what Tom is doing. I think if Tom takes out Jonathan, there aren't a lot of players left that can really scope out that Tom is that smart. I think a lot of people don't really see Tom in that way, but I think Jonathan is one of the people that could. Another thing is that right now it's Lolo and Natalie are making the move to take out Jonathan. They're going to take all the heat from this. If Tom steps in and changes the plan, then it's Tom's move. And now all of a sudden, instead of Ryan and Joey being mad at the women for betraying them, and they're going at each other, and Tamar and Candy are still going at each other, and they're just kind of sitting back in the middle, like, chilling. They just made a big move, and they've united some pairs. They want to get the women and these guys back together.
Yeah, you're right.
You're right. That to me is not the best move here. So I think the best move for Tom is to chill out a little bit, but again, I think he has the most potential in this house right now, but this is the first week. He's still learning the game. He's still trying to figure this out. And I think he's a little bit blinded by the fact that he likes Jonathan and more than the other people on the block. And he kind of just wants to keep Jonathan around as one of the more normal people in the house. So we'll see how that goes. We also have, of course, Ryan and Jonathan, the super tight pair here. You've seen them on the episodes. They just hang out nonstop. They are making a lot of mistakes along the way, and I think we know a lot about what Ryan and Jonathan are doing at this point. They are attached to Joey, as we've talked about. They are kind of the bros. There are no real alliance names happening yet, so these are the bros to me, especially because Joey just loves working out, and, it's Ryan. So they kind of have Dina with them because Dina is so attached to Jonathan. Jonathan has talked to Dina about saving both him and Joey and voting Candy out, and he has promised that both he and Joey, along with Ryan, will help protect protect Dina if she does so. So she's kind of attached to them. We then have the women, as I refer to them, because I've got no better name at the moment. And they consist of Lolo, Natalie, and Tamar. And, obviously Natalie and Lolo are a lot closer than Tamar because Tamar keeps getting into these things with Candy, and they're really sick of that. They kind of have Ricky attached to them. Ricky has their ear for sure. He's not super loyal to them in that he's willing to kind of push them in certain directions, but I think that they're the people he wants to work with the most at the moment. So they're doing their thing. This original alliance that we saw on the first episode, of Jonathan, Ryan, Lolo, Natalie, Tamar, and Candy, has been decimated. It's completely kaput at this point. As you've seen with the rest of them, there's basically no vestige of this alliance remaining, except for the fact that Jonathan thinks he'll be safe because the women will be keeping him because of this alliance that doesn't exist anymore. Finally, the most promising alliance of all of these, this tentative final four happening right now with Tom, Kato, Natalie, and Lolo. They came together fairly recently. This is really what puts Tom and Kato in a great spot. They're making a deal saying, hey, let's keep each other safe. It was just a safety deal. Then, some Final Fours have been thrown out a little bit here and there. So, I think this is, Tom especially is like, hey, I would not be super opposed to going to the end with these people. So this is probably what we should be looking at here. Depending on how the HOH shakes out next week, we could see this alliance kind of take some power. So that is how I see the current state of the house, Melissa.
Yeah. Yep. I think that that alliance is going to be one to watch out for sure. It's very exciting. And, I feel like this happens every single year where we have this big, massive alliance on the first week, the first few days, and then it literally disintegrates right before our eyes, like right away. It barely lasts the first episode. Like we all watch it and we're like, oh no, not the big alliance again, because they're going to take out all the side people one by one. And it never happens. Like we scare ourselves every year, and every year it's just like it implodes. It really does. Like for one reason or another, they fight, they don't talk, they end up not liking each other, whatever, and it just never works out. So I think it's like this is like one of the few years that I saw that big alliance form and I didn't freak out, and I was just like, we'll see how long this lasts. And of course, it didn't last. So now you know that from now on, we don't need to get freaked out if it's like the bomb squad all over again.
Yes, and I saw someone say in the chat, isn't Tamar included in that deal with Tom and Kato? Yes, to an extent, but in the same way that she's attached with Lolo and Natalie, she's kind of on the outside of that because she's so volatile that nobody really wants to be that closely associated with her. So she's technically kind of part of that deal, but not the Final Four talks, not the like let's actually work together talks. And again, one of the reasons why Tom is like, hey, why don't we just take out Candy so that Tamar becomes a regular person potentially. So
I don't think that happens.
I don't think
if you
so
took
either.
Candy, I'm with you on this. Where
I
you
think,
said on
yeah.
the update today that you think that Tamar has misunderstandings with many people in life. I agree that that's the case. I mean, God bless her. I love her. She's great TV, but my God, she cannot let something go. Every little thing that comes up, she takes offense to. If Candy said it, she's like, she's trying to make me look bad. She's trying to make me look shady. Like the live feeds are on. She's acting different right now. I mean, like, just like, girl, let it go. But even if Candy was gone, I still feel like she'd get upset because she's gotten into fights with other people who have tried to calm her down, have tried to help her. She doesn't want to be helped. It's like touching a hot stove. Once you touch it, you're like, ooh, I don't want to touch it anymore. So I don't think she's playing well right now. But on the other hand, I don't really see anybody coming after her because she's like, I cannot take her seriously as a player, even though I want to. So I'm hoping she proves me wrong and goes out there and wins the whole thing.
Tamar should hope and pray that she can vote for Candy to be evicted every week, but Candy never leaves. Because very much like the great Godfrey Manguiza, if you just call out a target openly and everybody knows this is the person I'm going after no matter what, then nobody feels threatened as long as Candy is in the house, because they're going to be like, well, obviously she's going to be gunning for Candy, not me. So there you go. It's an effective strategy if used intentionally, like Godfrey did. So let's move on to the stock watch. First stock watch of the season. We are going to rate each player based on their game this week, and there are a couple of changes to the stock watch this season.
Wait, before you announce what the changes are, I just want to point out the fact that Brent won the stock watch during Big Brother Canada 6 when Paris was the winner and I had all the Paris stock. And then Brent won Big Brother 20 stock watch when Casey ended up being the winner and I traded all my stock at the end and got all the Casey stock and beat Taryn. So Brent is 2 for 2 in stock watches. And here comes Taryn saying, I want to make some changes to the rules. So go ahead, Taryn.
Hold on. We've made changes to the rules every time. The Big Brother Canada 6
yeah,
was very different from Big Brother 20.
Brent.
I just want to point that out. That's all. Go ahead.
He's just saying it so that now if he loses, he can be like, it's because the rules. Taryn did this. I was winning every time, and Taryn had to stop me.
Well, basically, there are probably only going to be 4 roundtables over the course of this entire season because it's such a short season. So, with that in mind, we are going to increase the weekly allowance of money that we get to spend on the house guests. So we're going to get $20 each week as opposed to $10, which is what we did during Big Brother 20. And the weekly cap of money that you can end on is going to be 40 instead of 20, just going to double. So we get a little bit more money involved so we can spend on different players as we go so that there's not just like, oh, I have stock in 4 different players and that's it. So that's a change. And then another big change is that we heard some feedback from it last time. What we did was if you wanted to sell any shares of your stock, you would get half of the current value of the player so that it wasn't a game of like trying to buy and sell at the right time and make money. Hey, it's a short season. Let's experiment with doing it this time. You can sell for full value this time. So if you buy a player at $3 and then a couple weeks later they increase their value to $8 and you sell them, you will make a profit of $5. So you can now, make as much money as you want. That comes with a caveat though, which is that a player that is valued at $1 is now considered worthless. There is no 0 rating, so there's no $0. There needs to be a $0, otherwise you can't lose money by buying a $1 player. So if that doesn't make sense to you, bottom line is if a player is at $1, they cannot be bought, they cannot be sold. They are worthless. If the value goes back up, then things can happen. But at $1, they're worthless. You can't buy, can't sell. With that said, let's move on to the player ratings. And let's start with Dina. Brent, how have you?
Brent,
how
yes.
have you?
Regale us with tales of what you think of Dina Lohan.
Yes.
Okay, I'm looking at it from the perspective of I feel like there are people who are in the game right now who could win the game, here's the thing, knowing that the jury goes home, that they see all the diary rooms, I feel like Dina is someone who could win. And so I'm going to give her a little bit of a bump in the rating, even though I don't think she's playing particularly great right now. I don't feel like she's making any moves. In fact, I don't feel like I think I misspoke. It's not that she's not playing great right now. It's that she's not playing right now. She's not playing very much at all. The closest thing I've seen her do to playing is telling Jonathan that I'm going to keep you because you were in a movie with my daughter. I think she said movies.
They've made great movies together.
Yeah, I don't know what other movie they're talking about, but no, be that as it may, I feel like that she does get a bump from me because by virtue of the fact that she could win at the end. I feel like they would award Dina the money, and I don't feel that way about everybody in the cast right now. Having said that, her game really leaves a lot to be desired. I don't even feel like she knows what's really happening around her. She's basically a piece that's being used by other people. So I have to rank her pretty low. I'm going to go with a 4 right now.
I am with you, actually. I gave her a 4. I feel like she is likable. She is not like fitting in, she's not like hanging out with a lot of people, but she's likable, and that's huge, especially in Celebrity Big Brother. She's not trash talking anyone. If she's sitting there at the end, she absolutely can win that money. And that's very important, especially for somebody who is so non-threatening. I think that Dina is exactly the kind of person that can win the game. However, she's a long road ahead of her to get there when she's not really playing at all. So I do have her at a 4 here, a bit below average, but do not count her out. I think that she is potentially a good investment if you think that you want to make that risk. Melissa, what do you think?
Yeah, it's so hard when we're so early in the season, because we haven't gotten to see everything that's been going on, so I don't know what happened like when the feeds were off, and I don't know what's going on, and I just feel like I'm very confused. But I think I agree with what you guys are saying. I think that the way I'm going to base my ratings, at least at this point, is like a 5 is just like totally middling, and then if they're worse than that, then they would go lower, and if they're better, I mean, this sounds really obvious, obviously, like it sounds like I'm explaining like what numbers are, but like but I'm trying to explain that like everyone starts at a
Tom.
5.
Explain us how this works, Tom.
Rather than everything starts at a 0 or a 1 or whatever, it's like, and then you have to be really, really good in order to go higher. I feel like for right now, like it's like everybody starts at a 5, and if you do bad things, then you go lower, and if you do better things, then you go higher. Anyway, all that to say that because Dina hasn't been doing anything, she starts at a 5, and she, people have been talking. There's been talk about how she could win. Like there's been talk about people saying this girl's a dark horse. She's going to win this game. And I think that she's not doing anything. And normally I'd be like, what are you doing? You're not doing anything. But this is the first week. And I feel like that's what she needs to be doing right now is nothing. So I feel like she's doing exactly what she needs to be doing. No one's looking at her to leave. If anything, they were looking to put her on the block, but not really to have her go home. So I'm going to give her a 5.
There you go. So, if you are new to the Stock Watch, what we are doing here, we're giving each player a rating. We're going to take the average of the ratings that they receive, and that is going to be their price for the Stock Watch, rounded to the nearest whole number, and the audience is part of that average. I released the form earlier today on my Twitter. If you want to go see it, so you can vote in it next time. If you did not see it, at Armstrong Taryn is where you can find it. It's a form that allows you to rate each player out of 10 for their play this week in the game. So we polled the audience, and the audience decided that Dina was a 3 out of 10. That's what the audience thought.
All right. I can see that.
Bit lower than us on Dina, but
I almost said 3. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, moving on.
Moving on. Let's talk about. I'll start going in the order of the spreadsheet here. Let's talk about Ryan. Ryan is an interesting person to talk about here. He has definitely had a disastrous HOH. However, it's almost impossible not to have a disastrous HOH given the circumstances. He put somebody up on the block that wasn't really playing the game. He had to end up putting like 4 different people on the block because there were 2 different veto competitions, and one of them left the game, and also his closest ally is also on the block, and it's probably going to be the one that leaves. So a lot of things going wrong for Ryan. However, he's not exactly helping his case. That said, since Jonathan is the most likely person to leave, I think that's going to do wonders for Ryan's game. So it's all over the place here. He's a very difficult one to rate. I believe I ended up with a 5 out of 10 for Ryan. I think that he is likable enough, even when watching the show, where you can kind of just be like, it's just lovable Ryan. He's just being a goof. And, even when he's trash talking, it's kind of silly and it's kind of funny. And I think that if people underestimate him now that Jonathan is gone, if Jonathan does in fact leave, then I do feel like he has a chance to get far and to do well. So I gave him a 5. Melissa, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, similar here. If you start him out at a 5 for me, then he has, first of all, I think, we all know he's super athletic. A lot of the times when an athlete comes in, sometimes they don't do well in these competitions at all for some reason. Like it doesn't fit in their wheelhouse and they can't like figure it out. And everyone's surprised that they're losing everything. But clearly he can win competitions in Big Brother. So I feel like that will help him along the way. If Jonathan he's made a lot of mistakes with Jonathan, so that brings him down a little bit. They're not talking with the women. They really made a lot of fatal errors this week. I mean, winning HOH in the first place might not have been his best move, considering that like he shouldn't have been trying to show how big of a threat he is. But if Jonathan leaves, then it's possible that he could be seen as not as much of a threat because he's not tied to someone anymore. He's kind of like a lone wolf figure. And plus people already think that he's dumb. So they're not going to be really concerned about his mental ability, and they could probably just bring him into their group to win challenges for them and act as just like the brawn. All those goods and bads kind of cancel themselves out for me, and so it leaves him at a 5 for me.
Yeah, I can't go that high. I'm going to give him a 3. I actually think he's played bad, which is worse than not playing at all. He's, deliberately done things to shoot himself in the foot. And the worst thing is that here's the thing. I feel like you're right, Taryn, that his game would improve if Jonathan goes home because then he wouldn't be looked at as much of a threat. But I feel like he's just going to move on over to Joey. Like it's going to be the Joey and Ryan show. Instead of the Jonathan and Ryan show. And it's just he's going to be right back where he was. And he's the, flashier part of the pair. And I feel like he'll always be evicted over whoever he's with. They can't evict him this time because of the fact that he's HOH. They even really kind of wanted to evict him, but they couldn't because he was safe, obviously. And that's why, in part, why Jonathan's going home this week, if he does go home tomorrow. So I feel like that's the thing. I feel like he does fit into the James Maslow slot of somebody who is athletic and likable and fun, who is going to end up on the wrong side of the numbers quickly, and maybe floats by a little bit here, but by the time they get down to 8, 7, 6 house guests, they're going to know they need to get rid of this guy. So he's going to have to comp out in order to win, and I don't see that happening. So I give him a 3.
Well, the audience this time is a bit more on our side, Melissa. The audience gave him a 5 as well. So there we go. A 5 from the audience for Ryan. Let's move on to Jonathan. Jonathan, an interesting one here. Seemingly has one foot out the door. Has not exactly been playing well, but as we've talked about, potentially has potential in the game if he does survive. And it looks like there is a small chance that happens. So for me, right now, I think that Jonathan is playing very poorly. I'm rating him on this week, and this week he is the most likely person to leave. He has played very poorly. I gave Jonathan a 2 out of 10, and I feel good about it.
Yep. I feel good about it too. I gave him a 2 as well. I feel like he's played badly, and then there are other times where he's played not at all, and that is a deathly combination to have. I don't know what he's thinking at various times. I don't know why he just doesn't open up and have a great conversation with people and talk about what he's feeling. Of course, there are times where he's not even feeling anything. He did mention to Ryan earlier today. God, the days all bleed together, you guys. So don't come at me if I screw up a day. That he said to Ryan that I don't feel good about some of the questions that the diary room was asking me. And Ryan was like, well, what do you mean by that? He's like, oh, well, they'll yell at me if I tell you what they are. Of course, I'm like, well, what are they? Tell us. He's like, no, but they were just really interesting. So it's obvious to me that they're asking him questions that they should be asking him, like, do you feel safe right now? I mean, he is on the block. I know people in the chat, and I saw people on Twitter are complaining about the fact that Grodner's at it again. She's trying to ruin a blindside for us. But no, I don't feel like that's what's happening at all. They're just asking him questions that you would ask of any potential nominee because they realize he's probably going to get votes on Friday night, whether he wins, whether he stays or not. So I want to like him, but he's making it like really hard between not playing at all and playing badly when he is playing. And I also don't even think he could win if he survived this week and made it into the game. I don't even feel like he could win if he got to the end because I don't even feel like he's that sociable of a guy.
Melissa.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same level as you guys. It sucks because we can only grade with what we're given, and I feel like if this twist wasn't there, he probably would be playing a lot better, and we'd be considering him to be doing a great job. I mean, he made some correct moves in that he partnered with Ryan Lochte, who is clearly the brawn for the two of their pairing. And it's smart to have that meat shield there to help you. And normally, you win if you're paired up with someone for HOH, you win, and one of them gets to be HOH. Usually, the other person isn't automatically on the block. So that, if you play by the normal standard, he was doing things right this week, until he wasn't, and then he was doing things really wrong. So, it's unfortunate, but I do feel like he's probably going to leave this week. He's out the door. There's still a chance that he could turn things around, but I just don't see him doing that. I mean, I feel like it's easy, like we said earlier, to just have a conversation with the women and see what you can do, but they're not doing that, which shocks me. So, yeah, I'm going to give him a 3.
Yeah, by the way, Taryn, I wanted to bring up the fact that Andy Herron called this out on Twitter. The fact that Jonathan walks into rooms and it's like seen as shady or creepy by various people. Andy Herron said that, you know what, you should leave an article of clothing or a piece of property in each room. That way, when you walk in, it doesn't look bad. Jonathan, your superfan card is revoked because you're not doing any of that. You're just walking into rooms, and when people are having conversations, you're acting like a deer in headlights. Like, it's so awkward. Like, I have secondhand embarrassment for the fact that you just walked in and you're acting like you should be embarrassed. So stop doing that.
Yeah, especially a season like this where you know the other people, you know whether or not they're fans of the game, whether or not they would know that strategy. Whereas in a regular season, if you tried something like that and then somebody's a secret super fan and knows about Andy Herron, like, they've caught you so bad. So he should be doing that if he had the knowledge. Somebody should have told him that going in. Marissa, what are you doing?
Yeah, she's complaining on Twitter. Marissa Jarrett Winokur, the winner of last season, is complaining on Twitter that Jonathan is probably going to be the one going home. I'm like, well, it's mostly to do with him. Like, he's the one who's caused this, and why don't you see that? She basically wants other people to come in and save him, and I'm like, that's not even their responsibility. He needs to go out there and get some votes, and he's not doing it right now for me. Whatever.
The audience is a little bit higher on Jonathan than we are. The audience gave him a 4. Probably, in my opinion, probably looking ahead to his potential if he stays, which I'm with you on that, especially because I think there's also potentially a grading curve here where he was screwed by a twist, and he probably wouldn't be leaving if not for that twist. So that's I think that's I think that's a fair rating, though. Yep. For me, I'm looking at this week, and if he survives and moves forward past this week, then then I'll grade him accordingly that way. Next up is Candy. Melissa, how do you feel about Candy this week?
For Candy, it's hard because if it was just her own playing, I think I would grade her differently. But because of the Tamar fight or tension or whatever, I have to grade her based on that as well. So, I don't think Candy herself is playing poorly. I don't think that she's doing a bad job. I think that the problem is she's being dragged into this drama, and now she's associated with drama. She's got someone on the other side of her, going to vote for her at every turn, is going to ask for her to be put up on the block at every turn, and is creating tension in the house, and is creating animosity. And it's like, it's hard to separate her from that, which is unfortunate because I don't think she's playing poorly to begin with. I think that she's not really handling the Tamar drama very well, because I think that she recognizes that Tamar is volatile, and even if Candy is in the right here, I think that she, for the sake of the game, like if this was real life, it's like, okay, yeah, whatever, defend yourself, do what you need to do. But for the sake of the game, if I were her, I would be saying, I'm so sorry, let's bury the hatchet. I'm really sorry you were hurt and that I hurt you and I never meant to hurt you, blah, 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 to make sure that Tamar doesn't go out there and target her. But instead, she's like, she's trying to defend herself, even though maybe she's totally in the right. In this situation, it's better to just apologize and try and just put that to bed, so that way you can move forward in the game without having someone literally standing there trying to get you out at every turn. So all that to say, I think I would have to rate Candy. I'd have to rate her a 4, just because I feel like there's a lot of drama going on.
Yeah, I rated her a 4 too. I'm sorry, Taryn, I don't mean to jump in, but I gave her a 4 too. The problem is that again, I'm asking myself, can she win? I think probably. Obviously, I don't think she can get Tamar's vote, but she could probably win the game at the end. She's being used as a number by other people. I don't see her doing anything actively to try to further herself in the game. People are coming to her saying, "Okay, we've got your back." Kato and Tom come to her and said, "Don't worry, we've got your back." She's asked a couple questions, but she doesn't seem that engaged in the game right now. So that's why I feel like she's not giving me enough right now to give her a better rating other than a 4.
Yeah, I hear what Melissa's saying as well, where I do think that she unfortunately handled this situation improperly in the Big Brother house, where, you know, when Tamar says, I felt disrespected and, you know, all of these things, you can't laugh at her. You gotta pretend you agree and be like, you know what, I'm so sorry. It's all my fault. Give her everything she's ever wanted. Let her look the way that she wants to look. And my first thought was, then in the diary room, say how terrible you think she is. But then I remembered,
even turn to the camera.
But then I remembered, they watched the show after.
But they're not going to watch the feeds, I don't think. So if you just turn to the camera and say like, whatever.
Well, they'll hear about it. If
they'll
you say something on the feed,
hear
she'll hear about it. Yeah, exactly. But Taryn, I take your point that I would even like that. Go in the diary room and trash her, because you know what, if you get to the end, at least you can get to the end. You know, like maybe you may not get her vote at the end, but at least you can get to the end. At least she's not gunning for you the entire time. But she will not do it.
Yeah, it's better than nothing to go in the diary room. But if you want to play really hard, then you go to the diary room and say, you know, Tamar, she really made me understand why I was in the wrong. And then, then when they pronounced Candy unanimously, you have won Big Brother Celebrity 2. She comes out and she's like, oh, thank God I don't have to keep pretending that Tamar was in the right. Because, you know, what else are you going to do? But yes, this is, you know, not the greatest. Not the greatest, way to handle this. She doesn't seem super social with the rest of the house. She's not really fitting in anywhere in particular, but she is seen as a number, and I do think that she has some amount of respect from her fellow house guests, so I think that's important. I think that she can make it far. She is in potential danger of leaving this week, so that's not super great either. I gave her a 4 because I think she has potential, but right now it's not looking super, super great.
By the way, I'm sorry, before you tell us what the audience gave her, I do want to point out, because I was going to say this and I forgot, Doom reminded me in the chat that it's important to realize that inside the house, Candy is viewed as the victim. So like everybody in the house, even people that like Tamar, they really do enjoy Candy, and they really don't understand why Tamar is coming at her like this, and why she just can't get over it. So Candy has like the I don't want to say the loyalties of the house guests, but in view of this fight, she does. So she's coming off well in that regard. And even if Tamar like got out of the house and Candy was in the final 2 and tried to, you know, get people to campaign and vote against her, I don't think that they would really put much stock in that, because they know where that's coming from. So I think that I don't know. I just wanted to point that out, that everybody likes Candy in the house. Even if they're not working with her, they enjoy her, and they don't think she's at fault when it comes to this fight.
Yes, and in particular, Tom, Ricky, Kato, and Joey have all worked to talk to Candy and be nice to her and be like, hey,
right,
we get what's going on. So important to note. The audience agrees with us here. They gave her a 4 out of 10. So that's going to be a 4 average for Candy. 4s across the board. Next up is Joey. Let's talk about Joey.
We talk about this bitch.
You can start.
Like, what is up? Like, I'm so mad at the person that cast this guy on the show. Not only is he like a terrible person to have on the show, but he's also really weird. And like, I can't get over him using the dish soap to wash the vegetables today. Melissa, I know you were at work. Did you see this? The fact that
I heard about it.
The dish soap to wash the asparagus, because apparently it isn't clean enough for him. He's also complaining about the fact that they don't have a dishwasher. He thinks that that's so unsanitary. Oh my God, what did people do for 100 years before when they didn't have a dishwasher? Oh my God, I just can't listen. But look, besides the pettiness of it all, which I'm being petty by bringing this up, he just he's no fun on the feeds, and I really don't think that he's going to fight that hard to be there, even if like the opportunity presents itself and then the positioning comes open and he's like, oh, I've got a good shot, I can make a run at this. I don't think he even really thinks about the game in those manners. Like when he said that I don't believe in alliances at the beginning of the week, I think he meant that. Like, I mean, I know that he's sort of working with Ryan and Jonathan right now, and maybe like that will continue even if Jonathan is ultimately evicted. But he says things like, I'm only here for the competitions. I'm not even here for the personal strategies. I don't like stuff like that. And he's just a downer. Like his energy, like I would take Tamar's energy over Joey's energy any day. He's just so negative all the time, and I can't stand it. So I gave him a 2 just because I don't like him.
He's one of those people who won't call it an alliance, but will call them his friends. I hate that. I hate that so much. Where they're like, no, we're just friends. We're friends.
Like, dude, you haven't had a job in years. Like, you are not too good to be on the show. Seriously.
I will say that I was really enjoying him a lot more than I thought on the feeds. I thought he was fun to watch and funny, and I liked some of the stuff he said, and I guess some of the motivational stuff he said was like pretty sweet. So I really thought I was gonna like absolutely hate him, and I didn't absolutely hate him, which was like a major improvement. I don't like his gameplay.
High bar there, yes.
Yeah, right. I don't like his gameplay. Because it just doesn't seem like he cares. Like I thought, it was hopeful that maybe he would come into the house and we'd see that he actually does care. But the whole, like, I don't believe in alliances thing, like really got me. I don't like that at all. So yeah, I think I'm going to, I'm going to give him a 3 because the fact that you're approached with this big alliance opportunity, which not a lot of people are given. And he just shoos them off and says, I don't believe in alliances. I don't want to have any part in this. And that doesn't bode well for the future because now these people aren't going to come to you for an alliance at all. Like they're not going to try again. They might say, I'll work with you, but they're not going to try for a real alliance with him, and they're not going to trust him. And I just think that he doesn't care enough about the game. And that's why I'm ranking him so low.
All right. Joey's a tough one here. He definitely has a lot of faults. However, he is one of the people that I think could win the game because despite the fact that he's easy to make fun of and that, I think as fans, it's frustrating to watch somebody who seems like he's a little bit above it. The rest of the house is kind of okay with Joey. They do kind of like him. He has been kind to some of them at times, and even though when I watch him it makes me want to potentially stab my eyes out because he seems so condescending, they don't seem to see it. So that's important to note, and also they don't really see him as much of a threat. He is, he's on the block and nobody's really talking about taking any kind of shot at him. He's not really on anybody's radar to be targeted anytime soon. So I kind of reluctantly am a little bit higher than you guys on him at the moment. It could turn around. I feel like my like instincts on his personality make me feel like at some point he's going to rub the house the wrong way, but right now he hasn't. And judging on this week, I gave him a 4. I feel like he's right around the Candy Guinness spot.
I thought you were going to say higher than that. 7 or something.
I thought you were going to say higher. Also, one other thing that brings him down to me is that he agreed to go on the block as a pawn, and I always give negative points for that.
Yes. Well, the audience is a little more aligned with you guys. The audience gave him a 3 this week. Not super pleased with Joey. No, they don't like him and his hair and his push-ups.
Yeah, I can't remember who said it in the chat, but the only reason why we would want Joey to stay is to see if his hair grows. Because it ain't gonna. It's a tattoo or it's a hair transplant. Puya is in the chat. He's telling me that he thinks that he had a beard transplant. I asked Puya. Apparently this is a thing that Kyle from the challenge also had a beard transplant, and Puya is pretty convinced that Joey has had a beard transplant so that he can look like the evil villain mastermind guy. I guess I don't know why would you do that, but apparently he's done.
Like squares in his beard.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's talk about Kato. Kato, another interesting person to talk about. He was immune this week, so I don't really know how people feel about Kato. When somebody's immune, nobody even talks about targeting them because they can't. So I have no idea whether or not he might have been a candidate for the block if he was eligible. I don't know, how he's not super rubbing people the wrong way, but he's another person where I feel like surely his sense of humor is at some point going to get him into a little bit of trouble. However, at the moment, he seems mostly okay, and he's with Tom in a great position, one of the best positions in the house. He's not exactly the most strategic player, but he did win a veto, which says some things for his comp ability. And I do think that, again, I'm really looking at the players who are trash talking a lot in the diary room or in the house, and I feel like you really got to be careful of that with this kind of season of Big Brother. And he is not one of those people. He is mostly kind, and I think that goes a long way. So I'm cautiously optimistic about Kato. I feel like he's around replacement level here because of the spot he's in. I gave him a 5. Melissa, what did you think?
This
All
is
right,
tough.
well, I'll go ahead. While you're thinking, I will go ahead and talk about Kato. Look, I think he's a pretty likable guy. I agree with Taryn that overall, I think that he's somebody that people could vote for, but he doesn't seem to be thinking that much about the game. Like it seems like he's thinking just one step ahead, not 3 steps ahead. It's a very ABC, put the square peg in the square hole kind of game. And it's true. It's a short season and he has someone working with him like Tom. So maybe he does need to be that smart, but I don't feel like he will be able to make it to the end. But I do feel like he is likable enough. And currently no one is even talking about him. Of course, you mentioned by virtue of the fact that he is immune. But besides that, he hasn't made any waves. Nobody said anything negative about him. I do worry that he could be put on the block as a pawn because nobody's really that friendly with him besides Tom. But other than that, I feel like that it's very incomplete right now what's going on with Kato. Basically, the questions are, is he making any enemies? No. Can he win the game? Yes. And because of that, I give him a 5.
All right,
Yeah.
Melissa.
I agree with what you guys are saying. I'm impressed with, first of all, where he is in the game. I think he's in a really good position. I'm impressed that he won the veto. The fact that he's working with Tom, I think, is really good. The strategy conversations between him and Tom seem to be mainly Tom proposing, why don't we do this? Maybe we should think about this. And then him being like, oh, really? But he seems to be kind of catching on, and they seem to be kind of throwing ideas off of each other. And I think I could see him moving forward in the game, learning and picking it up. But at this point, it's hard to tell. The negatives in his game, the possible negatives in his game are that you're right. He hasn't made a lot of friends, it doesn't seem. His personality might rub people the wrong way eventually. I mean, there's only so many of these kinds of jokes that you can take. So I do think that he might run into some trouble later. But for now, I think he's doing well. So I'm going to give him a 6.
There you go. The audience agrees with you, Melissa. The audience gave him a 6. Feeling good about Kato. That is going to increase his average price there to, I believe, a 6. So highest rated player so far is Kato.
Wow.
Oh, wow. By the way, Melissa, I apologize if I sounded cunty there. I didn't mean to sound that way. Like, the chat is calling me out for being that I was rude to. You didn't look like you were ready to go. Like, it was like one of those times where Taryn asked me a question, and I'm like, what did you say? Like, I'm not ready to say anything. So I hope you don't think I was...
You were fine. I was waffling between 6 and 7 for him. And then I was looking through and thinking about the other players and whether he would be on the same level as some of them. So that it was fine.
All right.
Okay.
Well, I don't want to be looked at as a bad guy, Taryn. Like,
of course not.
I thought she needed a lifeline. So I was like,
That's
okay,
a
I'll
good
talk.
guy.
Nobody would ever call you the villain of the podcast, certainly.
Yeah, that's true. Didn't Kevin Martin call me that?
Yes,
I think he did.
That's the reference.
When he was in the house.
Yeah.
When he was in the house, he said that. Oh.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Tom, the villain of the Tom Green Show. Tom is an interesting one. In my opinion, he is playing the best game in the house at the moment. I think that he is the smartest person in the house. I think that he lucked out in the sense that because he's the smartest person in the house, and that's kind of obvious, he was going to get targeted pretty quickly, and he was. But there was a lot of craziness that happened around it, and he ended up getting saved, and now he's in a pretty nice position. And I really like where he is. I think he is probably, of the rest of the house, the most capable of handling that position. I don't like this talk of potentially saving Jonathan, but that's a like minor flaw compared with basically everyone else's flaws. So for me, Tom is going to get the highest rating of the rest of the house guests, a 7 for Tom from me. I like what he's doing. I'm again cautiously optimistic. I feel like this one might go down, or it might stay consistent. I have a hard time seeing it going up based on his knowledge level of the game, but we'll see. Could happen. Brent, what do you think?
Yes, I'm going to agree with your rating of a 7 here. The thing that I do worry about is he is like Tom Green has the ability currently to walk the line where like he makes jokes about people in the diary room, but it's not done in a malicious way, like he's shading them. So it feels like you're in on the joke. But if it veers over into Ross territory where they feel like the celebrities I'm talking about who are going to be on the jury, they feel like they're being laughed at or made fun of by him, then I do feel like it could go downhill. However, that's just conjecture, that's speculation. So I will refrain from judging him on anything that could potentially happen, other than the fact that he's playing really, really well right now. And I do think he could win the game as things currently stand. And so I feel great about him. I kind of want to give him a better score than a 7, but this game is so nuts right now with, you know, lots of moving pieces and volatile personalities that I'm reluctant to push in my chips on anybody else or anybody that high. So yeah, I give him a 7.
Melissa.
Yeah, I actually gave him a 7 as well because Tom, I think he's playing really well. I think he's learning and picking things up about the game where I don't and he's strategically thinking. Like I feel like his mind is in the right place, whereas I feel like other people aren't necessarily there and they're not trying to think about these little tweaks and little things that you could do to put yourself in a better position moving forward. And I feel like he is thinking like that. And so I'm very excited about him. I like his alliance with Kato. I think that they are in a good place. He also proved that he was pretty athletic on that first night when he came pretty close to winning the HOH. And I think that he's doing really well. Another thing is that I think it's interesting that he was able to get someone to use the veto on him in the first week, where I feel like a lot of the time people are like, I don't want to put myself out there and use the veto this early. Like, I feel like let's just respect the HOH's wishes and let's just like do this. But he made a big enough, good enough bond with Kato that Kato was willing to use the veto on him. And I think that's huge that he was able to do that. So, yeah, I'm impressed with Tom's game and I'm excited to see where he goes. So a 7.
Me too.
All right. Straight 7s for Tom. The audience agrees with us. A 7 out of 10 for Tom. We're really in sync with the audience here.
Yeah.
Doing pretty well.
Pretty good.
Let's talk about Tamar. Interesting person. She's probably the most knowledgeable of the house guests about the game. She's a super fan. She's been watching for a long time. However, there are some weird gaps in her knowledge that strike me as odd. She is very volatile. She got into an argument with Ricky about whether or not he was in a room with Candy. We've done some investigation, the Twitter folks, and it seems as though Ricky is telling the truth when he says he was not in a room with Candy, when she says he was in a room with Candy, but she will not accept that as an answer. She is very, very insistent upon the fact that no, I know what's happening. Don't even try to deny it. Denying it is basically an all-out attack on me and everything I stand for, and I do not appreciate that. And that's not even to get into everything that's been happening with Candy and the fact that she is willing to just like throw everything away, her alliance, her strategy, just like, no, Candy needs to go. It's all about how Candy is making her look. She feels like Candy is making her look like she's crazy. You know, leave that up to your own interpretation, I guess. But yes, this is definitely a volatile player and not easily relied upon, and that's how a lot of the other players are looking at her. Even the ones that are kind of aligned with her or might want to work with her, they're like, can we rely on her though? Because she won't listen to anyone. She just has her own ideas and will just go along with those. So tricky situation here, Melissa. What do you think? What rating did you give Tamar?
Yeah, it's really hard because I was impressed with her. I was impressed with her in the preseason interviews. I was impressed with her initially when she was talking about burying the hatchet with Candy, and really when we weren't seeing her on the live feeds, like when it was an edited version of her, I was like, yeah, she's doing a great job. She's really like she's strategizing. She's trying to put her past behind her and move forward and not let it affect her game. Well, in the second the live feeds came on, that all flew right out the window because she got in a fight with Candy over literally nothing. It was like the definition of relevance. It like really didn't even make sense. Like that wasn't me commenting on it. That literally was what the fight was about. It's the definition of relevance, like whether someone's relevant or not. Like it's like the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. And it was just like rehashed and rehashed and rehashed. And even after Candy left the room, it was like over and over again. The story had to be told to each person over and over and over. And it's like, enough. Like, people in there, like, if you guys pretended like you didn't have anything between you and Candy, like, people wouldn't have known. I mean, even Lolo and Natalie were talking about, like, we need to Google this stuff because we have no idea what their fight is about. And even still, no one's really told them what the fight's about. I don't really know what the fight's about. I've heard like little snippets of like the fight. I still don't understand it. So to the outsider's perspective, it's like, just like leave it. Like, I don't get why we're still harping on this. Like, this is a game too. This isn't real life where you can just walk away and be like, you know what? We're never going to be friends. So let's just leave it be. You're absolutely right that she's trying to, where she's going to throw away her game and her strategy just to prove a point and just to get Candy out and just to not work with Candy and just to stick it to Candy. And that is not what a good Big Brother player does. Not only that, like we were talking about earlier, even if Candy leaves the house, that's not going to solve this problem. Tamar is going to find a problem with any other person who's in there. It's not just, oh, it's just Candy though. She feeds on drama, she feeds on arguments, she feeds on this sort of thing. And that doesn't bode well for when you're living in a house with a bunch of people that you don't know very well. So I just don't feel confident about her game at all. I think that if she does turn on the charm again, like if she just like pulls it together and turns on the charm, she can do great because she is very charming. She's very fun. She's very funny. She's infectious when she laughs. You know, you want to laugh with her. But if she can't put the personal stuff to the side, then she's not going to do well. So, sorry that was a long rant about it, but I got to give her. So I gave Candy a 4, and I feel like I need to give Tamar a 3 because I feel like Candy's trying at least to put the past behind her, and I don't feel like Tamar is doing that. So I'm going to give Tamar a 3.
Brent?
Yeah, I gave her a 3 as well, unfortunately. And it really sucks because I want to like her. In fact, what am I saying? Well, I want to like her. I love her. Yeah. I love everything she's giving me for a television show. But as far as the game goes, it's really, really terrible. I mean, I don't want to belabor the point, but my God, what is wrong with you, woman? Like, why can't you let this go? I don't know if it's I really do feel like it's a symptom of the fact that she is I think she said she's the youngest of six people in her family, 6 children, and she obviously is not the most famous sister of them all. And I feel like she just doesn't want to be embarrassed. She doesn't want to be talked to like that. She doesn't want to be told what to do. She doesn't want to be had. And I feel like she feels like Candy's trying to, like, she's trying to have her. You know what I mean? She's trying to make her look bad while Candy gets to look like something else, which is not what's happening here, but that's her perception of it. And I was like, Melissa, I kept waiting for them to really tell me what the hell's going on because I listened to YouTube. My friend sent me the information about what happened in their real life, but all the stuff that Tamar keeps talking about doesn't seem like it has any relevance to the stuff that I previously told Rob about at all. It's just other stuff she's complaining about. And so I'm like, I keep waiting for her to be like, well, what happened was, but then never comes. It's just like more like hand wringing over the fact that you're pissy with her. And so the fact that you can't let it go, it has to be said that you're not a very good Big Brother player if you can't let something like this go. Like I was getting on Candy about the fact that she can't just,
Just
agree with her
apologize.
and give her
Yeah.
everything she wanted, but the fact that Tamar also can't let it go and brings it up at every freaking turn, and then goes after Ricky by virtue of the fact that he was little friendly with Candy. I mean, like, I'm not even, like, again, as I told to Taryn and Melissa, I'm not even convinced that this would stop even if Candy left the game. I'm not even sure she could win at the end because Twitter loves her. However, as I'm watching the chat, there are a lot of people who are starting to get off the Tamar train. And if the public is against you, I don't feel like the celebs are going to be with you. So she needs to watch herself here because it was fun for a while. We're like, oh my gosh, she's giving me life. And I'm still there. But it could get to a point where you look just kind of mean. And I don't want her to look mean.
She just seems like the type of person who thinks that everyone's out to get her and that, like, everyone's trying to do her wrong. And that's, like, it's not going to make anyone like you because it's going to go from person to person to person. There's always going to be someone who's making you look bad or making you, out to be stupid or anything like that. And that's, like, basically the game of Big Brother. So she's not going to do well in this house.
Yeah, I will say Tamar is my favorite kind of wild card because she is a wild card who knows the game. So her paranoia is not, and her dramatics are not just like, oh, I just hate this person. I just want to get this I just hate this person and because of this and whatever. She's turning it into like game conspiracy theories where Candy is the mastermind behind some grand plot to get rid of her and to discredit her. And Ricky is now part of it. And Ricky is pulling the wool over you guys' eyes. You can't listen to Ricky. He's lying to you about this game thing. And she's turning her like personal drama paranoia into game paranoia, and I love that. I think it's interesting, and I think it adds a nice spicy element to the game. I will say her arguments are already wearing a little thin on me. That's what's a little dry to like listening to her talk to Ricky for like the 5th time for another half hour or hour about the same thing, and that's not my favorite part of it. But I like what she does as a player, so I'm interested in that regard. However, in terms of rating her game, I agree with Brent. I have a really hard time seeing her win. Nobody really respects her that much. As we've talked about, they all think that Candy is kind of in the right here, and she's getting into arguments with other people. And when you get into arguments where you just like refuse to accept the truth from somebody and you're accusing them of something, and not only are you not believing them, which is infuriating enough, but you're like attacking them for daring to deny something that is truly something that should be denied because it's the truth. So it's like that's infuriating. That's terrible. You're never going to want to vote for that person to win.
Why were you looking at me when you said that?
Hey, look, I mean,
If the shoe fits.
yeah,
the shoe fits.
I mean, people have called us Candy and Tamar, and
I was like, who am I? And then I'm like, oh, I know who I am.
Yeah, we know.
So all that said, I gave her a 2.
Wow. Okay, cool.
I'm not very high on her chances here. The audience, however, a little bit higher than us. The audience gave her a 4. So the audience feels like she's in there with a shot here. So what are you gonna do?
Or they're just living for what she's serving.
Yeah, or they just.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of it.
Brent, the audience has integrity. They're voting on gameplay.
Right, all right.
Yeah.
That's true. By the way, apparently I didn't look at the form, but I got a lot of people giving you praise over the fact that whatever form you put up this time was easier to use. So
Yes.
if you didn't do the form last year when it was a little harder to use, make sure you do it this year and then going into Big Brother Canada 7 and BB21 because Taryn has improved it.
Yeah, I think I can even look at like the average time it took to complete it, but can't right now.
Well, anyway, that's cool.
Yeah, but yeah, it's great. It's on SurveyMonkey now. It's a lot easier, especially there are questions where you can rank things by just dragging and dropping. So super easy. Not as complicated as last time. You don't even have to sign in like you did with the Google Forms. Just click on the link, do it. Easy. All right,
nice.
Let's talk about Natalie, Eva, Marie. And the first thing I want to say, in her preseason interviews, she said, "My name is Natalie, Eva, Marie. I have 3 names. What do we call you? Choose whatever one you want." We had 3 options, Natalie, Eva, Marie. Natalie is the longest of those three. Not only is it the longest of those three, it has a long history of being used in Big Brother previously. So why is it that everyone is saying Natalie? I understand that they're calling her Natalie in the house, but why? Why isn't production shutting this down? She should be called Eva or Marie or Nem. I don't even care. Just not Natalie. Natalie's the one that doesn't make sense. Why is this happening? Please explain this to me, Melissa.
I don't know. I was calling her Natalie from the start, so now I'm
It's
like,
your fault.
now I'm lost. Now I don't know what to call her. I don't want Taryn mad at me. No, I'm really liking her gameplay so far. I think that she's doing a really good job of kind of trying to semi-mediate between these Tamar Candy fights, although I feel like a lot of people are trying to do the same thing with that. But I do feel like she's getting along with people, and also I like her friendship with Lolo. I think that the two of them are really great. Also, we didn't see Natalie have to compete in the first HOH or the veto. I don't know about the third veto, but at least in the first two competitions, we didn't see her compete. So I feel like that's a good thing for her because it doesn't show her as being this strong athlete. Whereas people are going to be looking obviously at the Olympic athletes before they look at her, even though she trains in the gym all day. So I really am impressed with the way that she's thinking about the game and the way that she's moving forward. So I'm going to give her a 7. And I just put up my hands in an 8, but I meant 7. I was like, 7. Nope. Okay.
Brent, what are your thoughts on Nem?
Yeah, I really like her, and I liked her coming into this season. The thing that really strikes me is that she knows how to deal with Tamar. She's the only one in the house that really seems to. I think I tweeted earlier, or someone else tweeted, I retweeted it, but she's like the Tamar whisperer. I think it was Matt Lagori actually who said that she's the Tamar whisperer. She's able to just get her to calm down. I don't know if she just speaks her language or she's got that specific vibe, but she's able to she doesn't put up with that kind of shit from Tamar, and Tamar pipes down when NEM gives it to her. So I'm kind of here for that. Everyone else seems to really like her. I think she is athletic. She could go a long way. She's likable. I feel like that if you're looking at somebody who, okay, we have to give the money to somebody, I'd like to give it to her. Like if it was her and Dina Lohan at the end, I'm giving it to Natalie Eva Marie. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I want to give it to her. She can obviously use the money. And I feel like there are some people there who could use the money more than others, and she's one of them. So that helps her. Aside from the fact that she's in an alliance with a meat shield in Lolo Jones, I also feel like Lolo is more of a, not just a meat shield, but also more volatile, more likely to get into a fight with somebody. I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop based on what Alex has been saying on Twitter about Natalie Eva Marie, but I haven't seen it yet, and what I've seen in the house has been really good. So that's why I give her an 8.
All right, wow. I am, I guess, a little bit lower on Natalie than you two. I really liked where she was prior to Ricky getting involved and kind of poisoning the well with Jonathan and Ryan. That said, I think she's still a capable player, and I think that she has decent instincts. She's good socially. She's good physically. So I do feel like she's one of the better players in the house. Her positioning, though, has deteriorated a little bit. So for that reason, I have given her a 6. I do think that she has the possibility to go up from here, especially if Tom decides to let's keep Jonathan. Let's reunite Jonathan with Lolo and Natalie. I think that would be amazing for her, and I think that she would be in a great spot, and I'd probably swap her and Tom around. But as the way things go, I do feel like Tom is in a bit of a better position than she is, and a little more capable of handling that position potentially. We'll see. But for now, a 6 from me is where we are going to land with Natalie. The audience, ooh, it's a close one, but they are with me on this one. The audience gave Natalie a 6 out of 10. There we go.
Excellent.
So I believe that's going to average out to 6 or 7. Might be 7. I think it's a 7. Lolo is up next here. Let's talk about Lolo. Yes, Natalie is going to be $7. Let's talk about Lolo. Lolo is an interesting one. I think that Lolo is basically everything that I just said about Natalie's position applies to Lolo, but worse. I feel like Lolo is less capable socially, maybe more capable physically, probably more capable physically, but that's a bad thing. I think that makes her more of a target, and I think she's less likely to win in the end, especially that talk about being jealous of Ryan. I feel like that's not a great look. It's not something that a lot of people would be like, yeah, I respect the fact that you were jealous and that's why you made a game move. So not very pumped about that. I think that of the two of them, if they succeed, it's going to be because Natalie helps them succeed, which means that Natalie is going to be with Lolo moving forward. And if Natalie is with Lolo all the way to the end, I feel like Natalie beats Lolo. So I'm having a hard time seeing her path to the end where she also wins. That said, she's still in a pretty decent spot right now. It would not super surprise me if she was the next person out, or maybe the person after the next person out. I think that she could be targeted pretty soon, especially from the men who she's about to betray. But I gave her a 4. That was my thought. I gave her a 4.
Whoa, Taryn. Wow.
Yeah. Well, I'll go ahead and
I think that's
echo.
pretty low.
Oh, well, okay. I'm going to go and echo Taryn because I feel like you disagree with him. So I also gave her a 4. The thing about, well, a couple things here. I actually feel like that she's actually pretty cold. And people are like, well, Brian, why are you saying that, Brent? We've seen no evidence of that. We have seen evidence of that. I don't feel like she could actually win if she got to the end of the game. Also, the fact that her and Natalie Eva Marie, I feel like that Lolo will always be the one targeted over NEM. So there's that, and the fact that she seems weirdly possessive and yet antagonistic of Ryan at various times. She can't seem to make up her mind about what she wants. I don't even feel like she's playing, like, it's like I said before about, I can't remember who I was talking about, where you can either not play the game or play the game badly, and I feel like playing the game badly is worse than not playing the game at all. And I do feel like she's been playing the game badly. As Tara and I talked about previously before the podcast started, she's given up her positioning in the house, whereas they were the pair in the house that decides everything, but now they're not that pair anymore. And of course you can say, well, Ricky has been the cause of some of that, and that's true, but they allowed it to happen. They didn't double check with the boys. Lolo got her feelings hurt, and here we are. So they've given up that positioning of the middle pair to Tom and Kato. So by virtue of that fact, I feel like that Lolo has to be a 4 right now, because if 5 is average, she's a little bit below average for me.
I really like Lolo. I feel like she's everything that I said about Natalie, but the problem is there's a little bit of volatility there. I think that she can be pretty aggressive with people, and she's not so far, I've heard some things about Natalie being confrontational, but we haven't really seen any of that. Whereas with Lolo, we've seen her be confrontational. Luckily these confrontations aren't like confrontations yet, but I could see a situation where they are big confrontations, big fights, big whatever. And I think people already are a little, nervous about her. She kind of got into it with Tamar just briefly. Then the whole flipping the thing off with Ryan, and I'm a little worried about her moving forward. And, like you said, she is the meat shield for Natalie. So she is the bigger threat physically. So I can't rank her as high as Natalie, but I still think she's doing a good job, and I think she is in a good position. So I'm going to give her a 6.
By the way, really quickly, I take your point about the fact that we've seen a little bit of her volatility on the show, like when she got into that fight with Tamar over what was seemingly inconsequential, and the fact that she's, been really butthurt about the fact that Ryan has a friend when she has a Final 2 deal with Natalie Eva Marie. I never understand that when people are that hypocritical. Like, can't you see how hypocritical you're being? I've also seen where she's been confrontational on the challenge previously, and the thing is, I feel like we have some confirmation of that based on her fights with a few people, even though they were small fights and they didn't last very long, or even some awkwardness here. I feel like that some of the stuff that I saw in the challenge, I'm seeing here on Big Brother, and we've only seen her for 7 days now. Over 4 weeks, I feel like that she is not going to rub people the right way. I'm calling her out by week 4. I don't have much faith in Lolo Jones.
Yeah, and again, like the flipping off the picture of Ryan on the memory, and talking about being jealous, and that's why, that's just childish behavior. So I know some people are like, hey, you're giving Joey a 4 and Lolo a 4, but it's I feel like Joey can win in the end. He does actually have some respect from his house guests, whereas I don't know if Lolo can take it. I'm not sure about
I agree.
that, especially since her closest ally is somebody who I think would win over her, at least as it stands right now based on this week's gameplay. So that's how I feel about it. However, the audience is with Melissa. The audience gave
Nice.
Lolo a 6 out of 10. Feeling good about Lolo.
Most of my ratings have tracked with the audience, so it's kind of my thing.
There you go.
When Lolo leaves after the 4th eviction, I'll be here going, okay.
Yeah, I called it.
All right, finally we've got Ricky, an interesting one because I was kind of like lukewarm on Ricky, like feeling.
I wouldn't even say lukewarm. I feel like we really didn't think he was a player here. We thought he was just taking up space.
Well, I felt like this is a friendly guy who is going to make it far and then have a shot to win at the end. Then he stepped up and really just demolished this 6-person alliance, has really stirred the pot, has really gotten in a few people's ears. He knows what he's doing. He's put himself in a pretty great spot. So now I'm feeling really good about Ricky. I'm like, wow, Ricky's like potentially one of the better players on the show. Then today, he's being a little weird, and I'm not sure why. And it's a little he's a little pushy, and it's like he's trying to conduct Terran show interviews by like taking people hostage and forcing it on them. It's a little strange, and he's also like being mean about it. And I don't like that. I think that sort of counters his image as like the big friendly guy, and that's what's kind of been talked about. Even Tom is like, what's up with Ricky? It's like at one second he's great, and another second he's like weird. And Ryan and Joey, I believe, were talking about it too. Like, has Ricky been weird today? Like, what's up with this? So I'm a little more torn on him than I was before. I feel like maybe what's happening here is I think he found some success when he stepped up. He started playing the game, and now he's feeling a little like, yeah, I got this. I'm good at this game. He's feeling maybe.
The second you start feeling that, it's not good.
Like feeling himself a little bit today, and so I'm not as high on him as I might have been. But I do think he has some skills in this game. He's still not exactly a target for anyone, and I still think he hasn't demolished his reputation enough, and is probably not capable enough of demolishing his reputation enough to not win in the end. So I gave him a 6. Maybe today is a little bit of a blip on the radar and it won't reappear. If it reappears again next week, this is probably going to go down, and it'll probably continue to go down. But if this is just a one-time thing, it just happened today, there's some recency bias for it, then we'll see how it goes. But for now, it's a tentative 6, and we'll see where it goes from there. Brent, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I gave him a 6 as well, and I'm looking at the fact that he has done some good things, and he's also done some bad things. And I feel like that I'm still waiting for will the real Ricky Williams please stand up? It's hard to say, because I am not like I said, I was not convinced that some of the positive things he was doing was on purpose. But then today I'm kind of like, well, was that on purpose? Like, why are you being bitchy? Why are you getting into fights with people? Why are you saying things that you shouldn't, when you know people are probably going to take offense or could take offense to it? So I still don't quite know what I'm getting from Ricky. I want to believe that he's like a secret mastermind genius behind the scenes who really knows what he's doing, because that would just floor me, and I'd be like, oh my God, that's so cool. And the house guests would totally give it to him if he made it to the end, if he was like this super genius, because you never suspect it coming from him. It's one thing if it's somebody you suspect and you made you feel like you were had against, but I feel like if Ricky pulled one over on these people and he made it to the end, they would be like, man, we got to give it to you. You did that. You were amazing. But I'm not convinced that that's really what's happening here. So he's played better than average, but not by a lot. So that's why I gave him a 6.
All right, Melissa.
Yeah, I feel the same way as you guys do. Before the game started, I was like, this guy he doesn't care about the game. He's not going to do anything. He's going to just go out pretty easy. It's nothing. And then, once we saw him playing, I was really impressed with him. First of all, he won a veto. Second of all, he was able to maneuver his way through that Tamar Candy fight pretty well and still come out looking good to both sides. Even though they were both kind of trying to come to him to get him to be on their side, he still looked like he was on both of their sides at the same time, while complimenting Tamar when he was talking to her by defending Candy by complimenting Tamar. He was somehow able to pull that off, and it was really impressive. And also he's, planting seeds of doubt. And I mean, he basically broke up that giant alliance. So that was all really impressive. But, his performance today was just not really great. And if you had asked me last night, I would have given him a much better score than I am right now. But now I just feel like I can't, just because, I mean, I don't know what today was about. So we'll just have to wait and see. But I'm going to give him a 6.
All right. The audience gave Ricky a 7 out of 10. Actually, what received the highest average rating of all of the players, just above Tom. Probably worth noting that about half of the people who took this survey took it before Ricky did the weird stuff today.
Yeah.
So that probably has a little bit of influence on that score. But for now, Ricky is going to get a 6s and then a 7, and I'm pretty sure that averages out to be a 6, but it says 7. So.
Math is hard. I love your tweets about the fact that you had to listen to people try to do math, like simple, basic math, for about an hour, and how infuriating it was to watch that. Like that was really fun.
How many seconds is 66 minutes? Is it like 1100? I'm not sure. So I kind of forgot to set this up. Probably won't do it this time, and it's probably not super important. But I'm thinking for future purchases and selling things that what we will try to do is send in our buying and selling decisions to Alexandra, who is working behind the scenes on this wonderful chart here, and then we will just reveal them so that we're not influenced by each other's buying and sellings, and I think that might be more fun. So we're not like trading like, oh, who's got the worst position this time, So
sorry, I missed that. So what are we doing again? So I know. Well, the chat is going crazy because
it's not super important for this particular podcast, but for next time we're gonna do something a little bit different. But for now, we're just each going to go ahead and make our purchases here.
Okay, so next time
and we have $20.
Okay.
Yes, and we have $20
Okay.
to spend. Here we go. Moving over to the buying and selling chart here. Lovely. All right, so. I thought about allowing us to short stocks, because I really want to short some stocks, but then I realized that like you'd only short stocks because everybody goes down eventually, except for the winner, right? Basically. So you'd make a lot more money shorting than buying, and that would be a whole mess. So, all right. So we're going to start buying some stocks here. Do either of you have any ideas that you're ready with now, or should I try and go on the fly here?
Go on the fly.
All right. Okay, so interesting stuff to look at here. We got Joey at $3. I personally feel like that's pretty cheap for Joey. I do think he's got a shot to win. Something interesting to note is that the next roundtable will be Thursday. I believe there will be 2 people evicted in the time between now and Thursday. Is that correct?
I think so. Yes,
so,
maybe.
If you happen to buy the person that's going to be evicted before the next roundtable, then you will have no warning and no chance to sell before that person leaves. And as I mentioned before, if they are so dead in the water and playing poorly enough that they get an average of 1, then they're just out of it entirely, and you can't sell them before they get voted out. They're worthless. So things to note: you have to be very careful, especially on this Big Brother celebrity season, because these people are going to go like crazy. So
yeah, and the fact that you can sell your stocks back at the regular price means even more that basically you're holding your money when you buy these things. When you put money into stocks, you're holding your money, and as long as they don't get evicted, of course they could go down, but as long as they don't get evicted, your money you can still get your money back by selling it back the next week. But if they get evicted, then you're screwed. So it's really important not to buy people who you could. Basically, don't buy people who are going to be evicted immediately. Like, if they have any shot to be evicted immediately, that's probably not a good buy.
Probably not. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and make some preliminary purchases here. I'm going to buy a Joey. I'm going to take a Joey, cheap, $3. And I'm also going to buy a Dina for $4. I'm going to start with some of the cheaper options here for now. Okay.
Alexandra is updating the chart as we go, so I can just tell you what I want to do if I'm ready. Okay, cool. I am going to, I still believe in her, and Crazy as she is, I still think there might be a crazy way for her to make it to the end. So I'm going to buy 2 Tamar stocks at $3 a piece. So I'm spending $6. And I'm also, and I may not be done buying yet, but I do want to buy some of her, even though she is a little high right now. I believe in Natalie Eva Marie. I just have not been dissuaded from the fact that she is a good player. She's able to talk to Tamar. She's able to communicate with the other house guests. She's very likable. She's athletic. She's fun. I think she could get the money at the end if it was up for a vote. So I'm going to buy 1 share of Natalie Eva Marie. So that leaves me, I have purchased $13 worth of stuff, and I still have $7 left over.
All right. Yeah, I think I'm good with my purchases. I was thinking about maybe buying another Dina, but I think I'm good. Melissa, what are your choices here?
Wait, what did you buy, Taryn?
I bought
You got a Joey
and a Dina, and Brent bought
Joey and a Dina.
2 Tamar
and how much
and
do
a
you have
Nem.
left over?
I'm going to have I believe 13 left over. The max limit is 40, so you can save a little bit. You have to make at least 1 purchase though.
Okay.
Yeah. The maximum
boy.
money you can have going into the next week is $20. So with that you're bringing with you.
Right.
But you have to make at least 1 purchase. So you have to buy something, Melissa.
You know what? I'm just gonna go for it because I think I have a feeling that these people are just going to increase in value. So I feel like I want to buy them now because I made the mistake of not buying Tyler near the beginning. Not that he won, but I feel like I made the mistake of not buying him in the beginning, and then it got
And
to
you're
a
in a
point,
bad position.
yeah, where I didn't have any Tylers, and the only way I was going to get more Tylers than either of you was to purchase like $10 Tylers, and I was like, what the heck? When you guys all bought him in the beginning, I had like held off because I thought maybe it was going to fall apart for him, and it didn't. So I'm going to buy a Kato, and I'm going to buy a Tom, and I'm going to buy a Natalie, and that is 20. So I'm going to be $0.
There you
and
go.
I'm just going.
All right.
Going for it.
Yeah,
All
the
right.
chat was asking somebody to buy Kato. Marietta was saying that. I'm like, cause she's like, well, buy Kato. He's safe. He's safe for tomorrow, girl. But
Yeah, he's not safe for
once
next week.
once we name an HOH in about 24 hours, he's not safe anymore. So, and we have these buys have to be good for another 7 days. So I don't know about the Kato buy, but
you know what? I just in my head, I see these people as increasing in value, whereas some of these others, like, it could go either way. So
Okay.
you know what? I'm trying out a new strategy this time. I feel like there's not really any large stakes here because it's like celebrity. So
All right.
There you go.
Again, they're trying to knock me off, folks. They're trying to devise strategies so they can beat me at the stock watch.
I'm trying. I'll figure it out.
I did consider buying a Kato. If he had been $5 instead of $6, I probably would have made a purchase. But $6 was just a little too rich for my blood. But there we go. So in the past, there has been a Reddit play-along thread, and the patrons of Rob Has a Podcast have also played along during Big Brother 20. We will probably have another person playing along with us. Rob Sesternino himself was very interested in playing the Stock Watch, so
very cool.
we can update you on what Rob is up to as we go along these few Stock Watch segments. And I was thinking, with other people playing, if the Reddit decides to play along, if the patron group decides to play along, whoever ends up winning, we'll give him a shout out on the final roundtable.
Sounds
That's
good.
a smart idea.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, they should get some of the glory too.
exactly. So that'll be fun, and that's what we've got for you for the Stock Watch. So there were a few other bonus questions that we asked you in the form, so we're going to move on to those before we wrap this up. Pretty good timing here for just over 2 hours so far for the first episode. We our first roundtable. We got so much to talk about. Let's talk about these bonus questions. So the first one was, how would you rate this week in Big Brother? I changed this question slightly from what I did on Big Brother 20. Big Brother 20, I asked, how do you rate the season as a whole, up as the weeks progressed, to see if it changed. It never really changed any significant amount. And that's partly because the season was fairly consistent in entertainment value. But I just felt like it would be more fun if we just rate the week each week, so that we can get a little more variance, hopefully, and then we can rate the season as a whole at the end. So I asked, how would you rate this week in Big Brother? I first want to ask you guys, Brent, what are your thoughts? How would you rate the week in Big Brother out of 10?
The players, I would rate them an 8. I think they've really been bringing it. The people that have been playing hard, and the fact that you've cast what are arguably a really older cast compared to what you normally get on a regular Big Brother season means that they really came in there ready to play. Having said that, there's been a lot of production shenanigans that I'm really not here for, but I'm trying to not hold that against them. But if I'm judging the Big Brother week as a whole, I have to take it into account a little bit. I've had a blast covering Celebrity Big Brother this season so far. It's been just so many fun personalities. Even the people that like Joey, who are really annoying me. At least he's annoying me a lot. Like I'm not having a non-reaction to him. I'm really hating on him. So I'd rather have that happen and give me something to think about so that I can rant about it, rather than somebody like Dina, who I'm like, what do I say about her again? So I feel like it's been really fun, and I would give it an 8.
There you go, Melissa. What do you think?
I'm not so high on the week so far, but basically the reasons Brent gave, because there's been a lot of production shenanigans. Additionally, like I just feel like there's a lot of unanswered questions, and they're not really giving us any answers, and they're not allowing the house guests to give us any answers. So I'm not really enjoying that. Also, not enough game talk for my liking. So I'd have to give it I'm enjoying the season itself, and I'm excited to see where it goes. And I'm seeing little nuggets of like exciting things that could blossom into really fun gameplay, but not yet. So I'm going to give it a 5.
I'm actually with you, Melissa. I gave it a 5 as well. Thinking back to last season of Celebrity Big Brother, the first week, I was pretty pumped. I was pretty excited. I would have given it like a 7 or an 8, probably, at least.
Yeah, me too.
But this season I do like the cast. I'm interested in how this is playing out, but there have just been so many weird things with production, and this whole mooch situation is just, it's so bad.
Really
I know.
killing it.
Yeah, it's a bummer, and it's weird, and not super into it. So hopefully that means that they have a lot of room to grow. Any week that they're not going to interfere, we do have a good cast. We do have a good show that we can hopefully look forward to. But for now, for me, it's a 5. The audience gave it a 7, which I feel like that's also pretty fair. I think
fair.
A 7 is what I would give it if there were no mooch, if there were no Jonathan on the block. I'd be at least a 7, if not an 8. So
I guess I'm probably a little high. I can't tell. The chat keeps going, what the F, what the what? I can't tell if they're talking about me, or which is usually the case, or if they're talking about something else. But nevertheless, I feel like I'm being influenced by what is like absolute TV gold in Tamar. She is just everything in the diary room, and I feel like that is what's at the forefront of my head when I'm recounting the week. So maybe I'm a little high, but you know what? That's okay.
Well,
something else.
I think there's a lot of room to grow.
Yeah. Oh, totally. And that's why I'm like kind of low right now, because I feel like it could get really good, and I'm already expecting it to get really good, but so far it's not really giving me exactly what I want yet. Another thing that I really, really liked from last season was I felt like there were a lot of really, really funny house guests that were entertaining, and I loved listening to them talk. I loved Ross and Marissa and their like kind of banter with each other. I thought Brandy was hilarious. James Maslow, when he had like some moments with people, there were back and forth things. And I feel like that all started on week 1, and I was already really enjoying just listening to them talk and hang out. And I don't feel like I have that yet. Maybe I will, but yet I don't see that. It's not really drawing me in as much as it did the first season. And also, I felt like the first season, having Omarosa in there, I was like, she was just so intriguing to me. Like anything she did, I was like, okay, what is she going to do next? Like, what's her deal? She was always like just so mysterious in my mind. And so it was always fun to watch her. So I just feel like there's nobody who's really drawing me in yet, but I'm enjoying it so far.
Yeah, the mooch was an incredibly poor replacement for
Omarosa.
Omarosa.
My God. Yeah, no way. Omarosa was like, and it wasn't the politics thing. Like, let's be clear. Like, I hope the producers don't think like we always need a political person in there, because I know that she was in the headlines because of the politics thing, but I didn't enjoy her because of the politics. I enjoyed her because she's this unique personality that's fun to watch, and she totally embraces her persona, and she's there to win, and she's there to play and strategize, and she's extremely intelligent, and it's not just a gimmick cast. She's not there just to draw in viewers and get a headline. She did that, but she also was really great in the game.
All right. Well, the second bonus question I asked was, this time with SurveyMonkey, I can easily have you rank people. So instead of just asking who your favorite player was, I wanted you to rank all of the players based on how much you like them. Who's your most favorite to your least favorite? And I understand the first one might be a little hard because especially the people in the middle, it's like, whatever. So, the order after the first few and the last few probably doesn't matter a whole lot if you just want to, like, place them wherever you want. But I think it leads to some interesting results at the very top. Do you guys have any guesses?
The favorite player out of everybody in the house right now, I have to think that it's... I was going to say Tamar.
Think it's Tom?
No, yeah, it's probably Tom, because I feel like the people that like Tamar love her, but the people that really hate her, and they give her like a 1 and drag her average down. Whereas I don't feel like anybody really dislikes Tom very much. So I feel like it has to be Tom.
Tom is in fact at the top of the leaderboard there. Pretty significantly. About 50% of people said that he was their favorite. So that's a pretty big, significant portion of the pie. That's Tyler numbers right there.
Tyler numbers.
Yeah, and he won. Yay. Sorry.
And then after a little bit of a drop, in second place is Natalie Eva Marie, followed by Ricky. Those are the top three: Tom, Natalie, and Ricky.
Wow.
Where's Tamar?
Tamar is actually pretty far down.
Can you find her? Is she that far down?
She's in seventh.
That's never good. It's never good when Taran has to count the columns and the rows, like a 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, no, not good, Tamar.
So they get like
Joey last?
They get like an average score. Tom is a 9.3. Natalie was second with a 7.7, and then Tamar was down with a 5.7. So not great. In last place, just
Joey.
barely, but in last place was Joey.
Yay!
Very, very, very close. It's 2.96 versus a 2.99. Dina was the second to last. And then Candy was third to last. That was the bottom three. But Candy had a pretty significant jump past them. She was at a 5.19. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there you go.
By the way, I have a third bonus question. The chat asks, are Taran's shirts getting progressively tighter? What is happening with that? And there's someone else who's asked if you were channeling Simon Cowell. So,
Simon Cowell?
Yes. For he always wore the tight shirts on American Idol. What's going on, Taran? Are you working out these days? Is that what's going on?
Well, I mean, I have been, but it's mostly that I pulled the camera back a little.
Oh, I know. I noticed that.
I'm
totally lying. Like I was actually shading you earlier in the chat. I was like, did you notice that he pulled the camera back so you guys can see his chest? Yeah.
Well, actually, I was looking at Rob's camera the other night when I was on, and I was like, his just looks better. It looks better.
I know,
to see
right?
More of
I do
you.
Maybe we should all step back a little.
I'm always trying to make my head as big as everybody else's head. I don't want to be like the guy who's.
Yeah.
Sorry, if you're listening to the audio version of this podcast, I just invaded personal space there.
Put his nose up to the camera.
This is the portion of the podcast where you just get loopy and
where we're just like, oh.
I asked also, who do you want to be evicted this week? Answer should not be super surprising given the popularity here, but Joey was number one with a bullet, with over 50% of.
Why don't we just make that happen? Like I feel like even Joey would be willing to fall blown his sword. I think he was like, apparently the live feeds are open right now. The chat told me that Jonathan tried to talk to the girls and it just did not work at all. So I feel like this is like a fait accompli right now and he's going to go home. But I really wish it was Joey because Joey doesn't want to be there. Jonathan wants to play. And I'd rather have, like, if we could keep Jonathan and Candy, that'd be so freaking great. But like nobody's even talking about evicting Joey right now, except for maybe Tom, which I wish he could make. I wish he could make that happen, but as Taryn correctly points out, if he did that, then all of a sudden it becomes Tom's move. So it's not even a good play for him, which bites.
Yeah. Jonathan was second most with about 25% of the responses, and Candy came in just under that with 22% of the responses. So pretty significantly Joey. We want Joey gone, but he's the least likely person to leave.
Yeah.
Finally, I asked, because I'd seen some talk about this, was Jonathan screwed by a twist? And a lot of people were like, well, yes, he was screwed by a twist, and he also screwed himself. I mostly asked this question because I saw a lot of people saying, no, he was not screwed by a twist, he only screwed himself. But the audience said, with 75% of the response, yes, he was in fact screwed by a twist. I think most people would also say he then proceeded to mess it up himself. I think that
Sorry, I was just going to say really quick, like when I found out that he was now going to be on the block, I didn't think, oh my God, he's going home. He's done. I figured he could get himself out of this situation. I didn't think that he was going to be going home. And then it was his own doing that made it so that he was going home.
Yeah, and I think that it's just something I wanted to cue up here that I don't think it's mutually exclusive. I think that you can get screwed by a twist and play poorly and play yourself out of the house. The twist put him in that spot that he probably wouldn't have been in otherwise, and then when he had to rise to that occasion, he failed. And I think that's what usually happens with stuff like this, where basically nobody else had to deal with all of the adversity that he faced, so we don't know how they would have handled it, but he handled it badly, and so that's what we saw. And
I agree with that, but on the other hand, he's had 2 chances to win a veto. I mean, like, he couldn't win one of those vetoes. I feel like, and Ryan couldn't win one of those vetoes for him because Ryan got to play in all the vetoes too, and he couldn't win it, and he's playing badly. I feel like here's the thing. I feel like it's more Jonathan's fault that he's probably going home tomorrow than it is the twist. And you can say, well, the twist is the cause of that, and that's certainly true. But I feel like that by itself would not have doomed him. He would have just been sitting on the block. Yeah. The fact that he hasn't done anything to extricate himself from what is now a bad situation is the primary cause of that. And his social game sucks. Again, I don't know what he's doing. Like, turn in your gay card. Why aren't you hanging out with the fun girls over here? Like, why are you hanging out with this fucking? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to swear. Why are you hanging out with this hetero boy? Like, just get away from him.
You know what I should have done, and what I might do in the future if this happens again. Hopefully it won't. But I should have put a slider, because I'm pretty sure I can do sliders. With like how much of this was the cause of his demise. Twist on one side, his own play on one side, because I think it's all a matter of degrees for each player. So like thinking about when we did the end of the year podcast, we talked about Erica from Big Brother Canada 6 who got screwed. When that happened, like, she was easily the most screwed by a twist. However, there were things that she could have done to prevent that, and she did kind of put herself in a position where that might have happened. But we all agreed that she was really screwed by a twist though. And so I do think that this is probably like a 33-66, 30-70 kind of thing, where it's mostly his own play that's put him here, but it was the twist that initiated it and set this path in motion. So I think that might be interesting to look at in the future. People are talking about how excited I got with all the data talk.
By the way, Lauren in the chat tells me that Ricky told the girls the DR said only 1 eviction tomorrow, and since you're not allowed to lie about what the DR says, I have to believe that that's true. So only 1 eviction tomorrow. So I don't know what they were talking about on the announcer on the feed, saying a twist in the game sends the second house guest packing.
Well, they're talking about the mooch.
I guess they're talking about the mooch packing to Davos, but that doesn't sound like that's not like somebody going. That's not somebody getting kicked out. That's just somebody leaving the game, which is a whole nother matter. Like, that was bad advertising.
I do have a theory that I've been kicking around in my head, but like I don't think it makes a lot of sense, especially because this twist seems very mooch specific and nobody else had this thing, but like they've done a thing in Big Brother Canada and somewhat similar things before in Big Brother where they bring someone into the diary room and they give them an offer. Like, if you leave the game, then you'll get something like this. I don't think that's the case here, especially because nobody else was given that offer, clearly. And again, this seems Mooch specific, especially if they had a Mooch themed competition. But it was just something that like was in my head. Like, maybe it was something like that where, I don't know, maybe they flash back to like he was presented with an offer at the start of the game. Do you want to whatever? I don't know. But it's just hard to find a reason why he would leave that's official and supposed to happen.
I hope they really explain it tomorrow.
I mean,
although to be fair, I'm kind of losing interest anyway. So whatever.
Unless they just like wanted to play off his whole like, oh, your stay in the Big Brother house is shorter than your stint in the White House or whatever. Like, something like that.
Have Zingbot come in and fire him from the
like,
Big
yeah,
Brother
like that's the
house.
only thing I can think of is like, I mean,
Okay, I just found the one thing I'd be okay with is that he was not in on it the whole time. This whole thing was an elaborate prank on the Mooch, and the Zingbot just comes in and fires him, and then he has to leave.
Yeah,
Right.
like that's the only thing I can think of is like they're like, oh, like we showed you, like, you thought you'd be in the house for a long time, but
So
you can't. We mooched the mooch or something,
For the record, I wouldn't actually be okay with that, but it would be kind of funny. I would not be okay with it, but it would be kind of funny.
That's the only thing I can think of that's gonna happen. I mean, I was trying to think like, okay, how many days was he working with the White House? How many days was he in the house? Like, are they, because if they coincided, it didn't, I don't think. But if it coincided, then it'd be like, oh my God, like on the day that he was kicked out of the White House, he was kicked out of the Big Brother house. But like, no, I don't know. I don't think there's any logical reason for any of this.
All right. Well, we'll hopefully find out tomorrow night when the episode airs. Is there anything else that you guys wanted to talk about before we wrap this up?
No, I just want to tell everybody in the chat, anybody who maybe wants to pick up what we were saying at the beginning of the show. When we go over 2 hours and when we're on YouTube, it always, like, if you're trying to go back in time, it always cuts it off. So you're only going to be able to see the last 2 hours as things currently stand. As the video continues to process, once we are done, you will be able to see everything. But there's usually like a half hour to an hour span where the video is not complete. And then I get people tweeting at me, sending me PMs every freaking season saying
everyone says it.
Yes, that something's wrong with the video. We can't see parts of it. Why is it being cut off?
But like you've already done it 5 times.
Like, yeah, exactly. And I don't want to take down my Josh Wins Big Brother tweet to pin something else. So this is my announcement for everybody that just give it a second and it'll be okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us on this first roundtable of the season. Hopefully we have many more successful roundtables to come. If you are interested, you can check out the most recent Terran show I did with Matt Ligori. We also talked to Laurel. It was about the reality TV fan base in general, and just talking about how we can maybe be a little bit nicer in the world and in fandom and stuff like that. So check it out if you're interested. It's gotten some pretty good feedback so far, so hopefully you enjoy it. Of course, you also should be checking out the Big Brother 3 blockumentary that Rob and I released a few weeks ago. Rave reviews. It's even better than the first one, which was about the second season, is the whole tagline from the critic. So check that out if you are so inclined. I will, of course, be live tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern to update you on everything that happened today on the Big Brother Celebrity 2 live feeds, and then tomorrow night we will be recapping the episode and talking about what happened with the mooch. So you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Armstrong Taryn. Melissa is at It's Melissa with 3 A's, and Brent is at One Lucky Gay. And I believe that's all we got for you. Hashtag. Do we have a hashtag for this roundtable? What do you think?
Oh, wow. Why'd you always ask that at the end? Like, you should ask that and then go on to the questions. So, chat, we need help. Give us a hashtag.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. I use Evernote for taking notes, and I hate it because it always fails me, but I can't find a better note-taking system. And literally halfway through this podcast, it just left. It just stopped working, and all of my notes went away. And so I didn't have my end of the podcast notes in front of me.
You know what? We couldn't even tell, Taryn. You did a great job.
Well, thank you.
Apparently, Big Head, or Brent's Big Head, or Big Head Brent. I think that's when I got really close to the camera.
Tight shirt,
By the way,
Taryn.
we're not doing anything with Taryn's shirt because that just objectifies him. We don't want to do that. Like, I mean, I think that I was doing it to you.
Yeah, Taryn
Melissa,
likes
so,
it too much. We just can't.
Exactly.
It's
Well,
just,
there's that.
it's don't give him a big head.
See, I thought Brent was bad, but Melissa is what's the damn, I forgot
Well, anyway,
blaming the victim.
Yes, exactly. Puya is going to be on the morning update. Did you say that already? I don't know if I did.
I did not.
I don't want to
Yes,
repeat
Puya
something
will
you
be
said.
joining
Oh yeah.
me.
Puya is in the chat right now. He's been moderating. Thank you for that, Puya. But he's going to be on the live feed update tomorrow with Taryn, and so look for that.
All right. I have tried OneNote. I'm sorry, but I hate that it doesn't have a single, like, we'll talk about it on Twitch sometime.
No Doom. I can't use that hashtag.
All right. We'll go with hashtag Brent's Big Head. Melissa Bot on Twitter posted a screenshot of it.
It's very funny.
It's very funny.
Melissa Bot on Twitter. I love Melissa
You need to look at it.
Melissa Bot has shown me how to do GIFs of myself. I never used them either. I
have no idea how to do GIFs of myself, so but I have taken to sending them to my friends as responses because I found them from that people have made. So it's nice to be able to send GIFs of myself.
I hate that you're both saying GIFs. It's really bugging me. Anyway.
You're wrong. It's GIFs.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Again, you can follow us on Twitter. Find me on Twitch, Instagram, all of the places. And make sure you tweet at us with the hashtag Brent's Big Head. And there it is, right there. Thank you once again for joining us. We will see you